to anybody who wants it.
Please email it to Justine as well.
Anybody else want to do it?
And
Sorry,
to
what's that?
Bob.
Bob?
Yep.
Thanks. Thanks, Diana.
You're welcome, Susan.
Just tell me when to go. Or
Tom,
just, what's that?
I was going to say, I'm happy to follow up offline, but I'm curious if you ever connected with Bill Sapalis, if he ever came before your working group?
Sounds familiar. Diana, is that one of the guys you talked to?
Yeah, he came last week. Last
Oh,
week.
that's right.
Last week,
Yeah.
and he was great. He's the one
Yeah.
that does the art with the small businesses.
Oh, yep. That's right. Yeah, he did great. So God, was it 2 months ago? Feels like it was 2 months ago. Anyways, it was a really well. All right, Tammy, do you want to kick the meeting off, or what do you want to do?
I think, how are we doing, Diana, for any kind of quorum from small business working group? Just to have enough people on.
I would have to ask Colin since I don't think I have a list of the small business working group members.
That's okay. I think I'll probably have enough people for a quorum for exec shortly. So if you start going through your resos and getting it working, we can rock from there. So
Yeah,
I see
okay.
we are already recording, so we'll kick it off officially saying, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is Community Board 1. It's Monday the 23rd. You have come early for our executive committee meeting, which will be starting with the Small Business Working Group with Colin Mahoney and Elizabeth Lewinson. So take it away.
Yay! So month, and again, it was over 40 days ago. I think it was. We had a really great working group with a variety of folks from the city. Bill Sapalis, obviously, who did the artwork around for small businesses. Sorry. Oh, Diana, I don't know how to mute people. So, anyways, and what came out of it was 3 really good thoughts for resolutions. So I have them here before you. Again, I apologize for not getting them to the group beforehand, but this is really simple stuff. The 3 basic thoughts were the first resolution. Well, let's think about it that way. Instead of going through the whereases and the therefore be it resolved, I want to tell you what I was trying to resolutions, and perhaps we can get there together. What you're looking at is essentially a worksheet. You guys can all see my Word document here, I'm assuming. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So the first one was, I don't remember where it came from, but someone on the committee said that a lot of businesses were having a hard time. You know, look, it's like this reverberating effect where you don't have revenue, you can't pay bills, you can't pay staff, you can't pay your taxes. You've all been hearing me rail against city and federal and state folks for not giving tax breaks where businesses really need them. If you can't open, then how the hell are you going to pay your taxes? So now these guys are now all running into tax issues. And if you have tax issues, you don't qualify for an SBA loan. If you don't qualify for an SBA loan, you can't pay your staff, you can't generate revenue, you can't stay open. So it's a kind of a death spiral. So the idea of resolution number 1 was to encourage, I guess it's mostly federal for SBA and their lenders, to encourage them to ignore delinquent taxes when they consider SBA loans. So the whereases and therefore be resolved can all be worked on, but if we can all agree that that's a good idea, that's probably a good place to start. Does that make sense to you, Tammy?
You're running your show, dude. I'm here supporting you. Go for it.
Perfect. So is there any discussion on this, or do we agree that this is a resolution, this one here, that I should work out and that we can all approve and vote on now?
I think it makes perfect sense.
Okay, can I call the question?
I think should be supporting.
I'm not a member of your committee, but I agree as well.
And just to clarify, my committee cannot vote. We're just an advisory group.
So we vote for your committee?
Exactly.
We're gonna vote. We're gonna take it You just need to go through all the resolutions to get them done, Colin.
Oh, and then we
And
do
then if
it.
everybody's okay with the way the resolutions are, we will call the question when we kick off executive, and I'm sure I have quorum in executive, and hopefully everyone who's here will have had a chance to read this, and then we vote to approve and move on.
Okay, that works.
Can I be Justine?
I think that's technically a violation of state law, but
Oh, never.
Yes, you are Justine today.
Colin, can I ask a rather ignorant question?
I'm sure I won't know the answer to it, but sure.
If the small businesses are open or if their revenues are severely depressed, isn't there a correlation between that and tax liability?
Absolutely.
Meaning if they're not open and they're not generating revenue, what taxes are they owing?
I am not.
I can answer that question. Hey guys, it's Bill Clementis. How are you guys? The problem
My
is
expert.
there's fixes in place. For example, the corporate tax. You have the sales tax varies upon the business being open or closed. That's correct. But there's other situations that we have out there outstanding that they're not forgiving. So there's base taxes out there that we have. But it's not just the taxes, it's also the utilities and so forth that's being deferred, but still being accounted for.
I think like
What's
commercial
that?
rent tax is a pretty big one, right?
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. Now I could wear both hats, small business as well as a landlord. The real estate tax has not been forgiven and it's still based on last year's numbers.
Right.
Now we have to do, actually I'm fighting with my lawyers to get it adjusted, but it has to go into the following year's projection. So whatever's being held today and set in stone is still being accounted for. Give you an example real quick. The bank gave me for my mortgage a leeway for 3 months. On the second week, going into the second month, I got a call from my bank saying, you owe us money. And I go, what are you talking about? I thought I had that leeway. They go, no, with us you do, but the state still wants their income. So
Bill, is that the example you're talking about right now? That's in your capacity as a landlord?
correct,
Got it.
correct. Now, going back to my capacity as a small business owner, I have also the bills that are coming through. Basically, for example, my small corporate tax, which is basically the general tax liability, which is my ability to operate in New York City. Give you an example on that one. They raised it on us because every year I would pay a little bit extra into the fund, so it always carries over. This year I got an extra bill from the state of New York saying I owe them another $2,000 on top of the $3,000 I already gave them. And I didn't just get that; everybody got that across the board.
But at the same time, even I totally hear what you're saying. If you're not generating revenue, you're not generating tax liability. But you know, as
Generating
Bill-
sales, but no, that's not tax liability. You're not generating sales tax liability.
right, exactly. Yeah, that's what I meant. But yeah, you still obviously owe a variety of different kinds of taxes. But however you get there, it's a good question. But however you get there, I think it can't hurt to just make it easier for people to qualify for SBA loans. That's the gist of this.
Yeah, and I wasn't asking to refute the value of the resolution. I think it makes great sense. I was just trying to educate myself, and now I am. So thank you.
No, it was a great question. I'm every week I do this, every month I do this stuff. I'm learning too. So it's good to have Bill, my expert here. So I guess we're gonna vote on this when we open.
Hold up. Hi, guys. It's Pat.
Hey, Pat.
Can someone please email the resos to me?
Yeah.
I'm on my iPhone. I can't. It's really too tiny.
Yeah, I'll do it right now.
Thank you.
I think I got your email, right? Okay. Okay, well, Pat is waiting for that email. I guess we'll go through the second one. This one's pretty straightforward, supporting the Restaurant Act. Look, it's under this administration, it's not going to pass. I don't know what's going to happen with the next administration. It's been hanging around the House since June or July. By every person we've talked to in the industry, Bill, again, help me out if you can. thinks we ought to pass this. I've listed here, if you can see the screen, all the provisions of the bill. But essentially, it's just cash help for restaurants that are trying to stay open. But go ahead and take a moment to read it if you can.
You know what's funny about that? That's already been approved, but they're holding it back. That's part of the original plan.
It was approved by the House, but it's stuck in the House. As usual, the Senate won't act. This is just simply us holding the bill. We've done this a few times, more than a few times, with state and federal legislation. That's a cool sound. Okay, unless anyone objects, I'm going to move on to the final resolution here. This one came from my twisted brain. And actually, it's been recently enforced by so obviously one of the bigger expenditures, again, Bill, feel free to chime in here, are obviously heating lamps and the propane that these things suck down all day long, and especially with outdoor dining, and especially with what looks like to be additional lockdown measures in the coming weeks, back out to outdoor dining. I was sitting there eating, I forgot where I was in Tribeca, and these guys are just coming out and changing propane tanks like literally every 20 minutes because these things are just burning like all day long so people can eat outside. So it just made sense to me that the city can use its buying power to help with propane tanks or even heaters. And while researching this, I found this article, Hamilton, New Jersey, the municipality, has actually funded a grant program for up to $20,000 for qualifying restaurants for both heaters and propane to keep outdoor dining going. So,
Colin,
yeah, Bill.
I'm sorry. Whenever we had this conversation with the councilperson Klein, and we're talking about the heaters and how we're going to do it back and forth and how it's been approved. Well, I'll tell you right now, what's happening down the street. A lot of people, like for example, I have outdoor heaters, but I'm not using them. The regulations are so tight and strict on how you use it and so forth. For example,
storage is the big thing, right?
Yeah, the storage of the propane, number one.
Right.
Number two, speaking to Firehouse 10, which they're basically all my friends there, they're like, Bill, don't do it. It's not worth it. You're going to get too many fines because you have to keep it a certain feet from the space of business, meaning you have your door entrance on the sidewalk. Let's take George's, for example. You have to be at least 10 to 20 feet outside any door entrance to the restaurant or premise. By doing that, in addition, you have to have a certain feet away from the customers. So in that essence, what it does is defeats the purpose of even having the heaters. Because if they're so far out of reach where they could be effective, there's no point even issuing them out. Now, on top of that, they were saying it's a constant change, and that gets a lot of workers like myself very frustrated because every time we turn ahead, it's a new regulation, whether it's from the fire department, the building department, or even the city itself concerning how they're proposing it out there. There's no straight message on it. And for example, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Colin.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear, and I actually saw just the other day. There was a story that came out in NewYorkEater.com about those regulations that the city had finally kind of gotten its act together on what restaurants could or couldn't do. And I hear you, and we can address that another time. But right now, it does seem clear that there are a lot of restaurants using outdoor heaters.
Are the restaurants in Manhattan though using them? Actually, I don't see it.
I've seen a ton of it.
Propane?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen at least 4 or 5 restaurants in Tribeca doing it.
That's interesting.
That's not relevant. I mean, in my mind, for the companies that need it, it makes sense to utilize or leverage the city's buying power to help them with those supplies. So that's what just struck me.
What were the reasons for not using it? Are you guys aware? Is it the supposed cleanliness or lack thereof of the fuel? Because I
no, it's the safety.
One of the cleanest there is. Yeah.
No, it's safety issues.
Yep.
It's
What?
safety. It's
Fire safety?
Fire, yes,
Fire
fire.
Okay, fire safety, okay.
I have two questions. One, Bill, who's regulating it and who is coming around? Is the fire department really going around to the restaurants and watching and giving fines and tickets out?
Well, I was told by Firehouse 10,
Mhm.
just because they're not even sure. And
Right.
and if you go talk to Mike at O'Hara's, for
Mhm.
example, we went in together and we bought 4 tanks, 4 basically heaters.
Mhm.
And long story short, he's like, I'm not even going to use it because it's not worth it.
Ah.
That's why I'm kind of surprised, Colin. I'm curious. I'm going to take a trip tomorrow to Tribeca myself and just watch how they're doing it. Because from what I understand with the regulations that I was told, it is the people who are my friends, and
Mhm.
it just wasn't feasible because even that with the storage on top of it, they said you
That's
can't
so
have
really
them.
they're not going to be able to be open then when it's colder.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, these
Well,
these
can
are,
we just not specify propane? Can we say like heating implements or something?
What else would you use?
Because the city should be paying. I mean, I think we support that part. So can't we just say
No, but you're not asking for the city to pay, right? You're asking for the city to use its collective.
to get it for cheaper, right?
Right.
We're-
buying power.
wholesale prices. So that's essentially them contributing to the cost.
But then
So
how would the city then? So say they buy 100 of these heaters. How would it be first come, first serve? How are we saying that they would distribute them to the restaurants? Or are
As
we?
usual with my resolutions, I don't like leaving too many details. I'd rather leave details like that to the city. But for me, the important thing is just trying to leverage buying power for cost.
So I think, and that to that end, we should delete any wording about propane and specifics as to what kind of heating, and just say, that we're looking for support. We're looking for wholesale to share in the wholesale prices, sort of like a co-op or something.
I
It's
can
not
go
even
with
sharing the prices. I think just getting reimbursed because you're not going to have the city go out there and buy heaters. They're not going to do that. But if we go get the heaters and be proactive with it, like I do with mine, I just give it the bill to the city or just deduct it off my year-end tax.
That's actually
That's
not a bad idea.
But isn't it an expense anyway? And so, Bill, isn't it an expense for the business? And so, can't
That's
you
your point.
depreciate it or write it off?
Correct. Yeah,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But the only thing is, Pat, like, what gets me nervous, Pat, you go into the firehouse down the street from your house, and you'll see, and just ask these guys and say, "Hey, guys, what's going on?" And they'll tell you exactly. It's just what they're saying. It sounds great, but in actuality, it doesn't fly.
I just don't think that's relevant here, Bill. I mean, you make a good point. And look, I work with energy storage companies that can't do anything in New York because the fire department won't let energy storage into buildings. So I hear you. I just don't think that's relevant to this. I think we're trying to make cash on hand expenditures easier for businesses. That's my goal.
You could also,
writing that off next year. That doesn't help you right now.
That's correct.
could we also have a whereas somewhere that includes the thinking about addressing any legal or practical hitches there are in achieving the safety? Have
Yeah.
some language like that we not only are asking for financial help, but also legislative help so that we address the safety issues at the same time.
Maybe can we do that with a separate resolution? I can either write it for new business or we can do it right now. I'm sure no one wants to do it now.
Did you mean this to be only about those heating devices? Or if it does, then if you're only talking about the heating devices, then they should be in one place. These
Yeah,
two
what I'm saying
ideas.
is we start getting into safety, we start getting into all the issues that Bill just outlined. And that's a whole different theme, if you ask me.
No, I agree.
Again, I'm
Colin.
not on your committee, but I say leave out the safety and let that be to the experts that handle that, and leave out the type of heating implement that you're seeking, because there are a number. There's heating lamps at some of these restaurants over here by me. There are like plexiglass. Well, I mean, you got to be careful with that too, because it depends like how much, to the extent that you create an enclosure, soon you're putting yourself inside once you use a certain, beyond a reasonable amount of plexiglass. But there's all kinds of things that people are using. So I think we should just say heating. And I think that we should not talk about the safety issues.
Mariana, can you see my screen? All right, if you can't see my screen,
I can see the screen. I probably should go get my glasses too, but I can see it.
I just wrote, how about we just strike propane? I just wrote, assist with equipment necessary to conduct outdoor dining activities.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
love it.
I'm okay with that if other people are. Good.
Colin, one quick question, and again, it may just be my ignorance, but at one point a few months ago, we were talking about extending the deadline for restaurants being able to stay open with outdoor dining. What is the status of that?
I believe it's open-ended. Am I right, Lucian?
It is.
Yes.
So there's no deadline. They can operate through the winter if they choose to.
Yeah, which
Outdoors.
is actually something we advocated for, so I don't want to take a victory lap, but good job, guys.
Excuse me. Quick question. Going back over what you just said, you've taken out the safety issue?
It was never in there, and I personally believe the safety issue is a whole different resolution. We're going down a rabbit hole with that, if you ask me.
Thanks.
Because Bill's right, and there's been a lot of consternation among restaurants about regulations from the city as to how to actually storing it is obviously a big deal. You can't store explosive tanks in your restaurant. It's bad.
Storing
But-
them on the street in Tribeca, it drives me nuts.
Yeah. So I prefer we don't address that. I think we get into a black hole if we do.
I think in terms of safety, I've noticed all different kind. I think there's a rule about 50% coverage, 50% enclosure, and then if you're more than 50%, it isn't a legal outside dining place. But now so many places are building places that are tiny and enclosed and buying little tent-like structures that are made out of clear vinyl that actually are putting a lot of people that are putting 6 people into a very tiny little capsule. So I think there's lots of safety issues coming up. So I think I just wanted to have, since this is about heaters, to have the safety issue for heaters kind of there. I think that the safety issues around outdoor dining are very, very, very complex.
They are, which is why, again, I would not at this time welcome a friendly amendment to include safety.
Okay.
Yeah, this isn't really, it's not really a resolution about heaters. It's a resolution about support in the cost. Yeah, so we don't have to go there at all.
So those are the three, I guess we're going to vote on these during session, but these are the three rough ideas of.
Colin, their hands up.
Oh, I don't know how to use this, Diana. How do I give it back to you?
Do you want me to just call on folks?
Here we go. I got it. Let me see here. I don't actually see any hands up.
I can tell you that Betty's hand is up and Alice's hand is up.
All right, can you just, oh, there we go. Sweet, I'm getting this. Betty, go ahead.
I'm a dot the I, cross the T kind of person.
Mhm.
Given the way I hear conversation being interpreted differently by different people, I think we need to do something to tighten up the resolve.
For which one?
The actual resolution itself.
No, I'm sorry, the third one?
Therefore be it resolved that we urge, not a whereas statement, the resolve.
Of the third
Final
resolution.
statement. Yes.
Okay.
If it's going to be municipal buying power, that's fine, but it's to secure it so the restaurants can buy it at a lower cost, so the restaurants can receive it as a gift. I mean, it needs to be much more specific about what the buying power is doing for whom.
Yep, I agree. Don't mind my typing. Therefore, be it further resolved. I mean, look, if it was up to me, the city would give this stuff to them for free. It's, look, it's an awful pandemic, but at the end of the day, it's the city and the state that's forced them to not be able to do business. So in my mind, they should be giving this stuff to them for free to help them survive. But that's my personal opinion. I think that's a bit draconian. I think that's asking a little bit too much of the city. And as Bill mentioned, you can write it off at the end of the year. But if it saves them 10, 15% on hand cash costs, I think that's a victory. Would you agree with that?
I'm not a restaurant owner.
Okay.
I mean, it
I
seems
would.
obvious.
I agree.
Yeah, and the question is, what is that buying power doing? It's to make available wholesale priced goods.
Yeah. I mean,
That's all the specificity I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
I don't even know how it would physically work, but
That's another issue.
yeah, I know.
Because the city doesn't want to be in competition with businesses that sell these things.
After 9/11, the government brought all these things that we needed, vacuums, HEPA filters, or whatever, and you could go to places that were established electronic stores in the neighborhood and go to them. They were like approved by FEMA and get these items at a lower cost than they normally cost. We
Yeah.
did it. We
I like
did it
that.
20 years ago.
I'm going there right now. I like that, Mariama.
It can, but that was very local as well. This is the whole state.
My resolution was the city.
Okay, it's the whole city.
Yeah, sorry if I confused.
The whole
Which the-
country.
So therefore, be Mariama, to your point, therefore be it whatever, be further resolved, we urge the city government to purchase these supplies on behalf of small restaurants in New York City to be purchased through a city department or something like that. Is that how you're seeing it?
Yeah.
Is it too sensitive to reference that they develop a program similar to what they did for 9/11 and HEPA filters, but specific to this?
I
I don't
think
know
so.
how to. I like it.
I think it's fine. Yeah, too. I like it too.
Okay, so if it's okay with the committee, what I'll do is I'll tighten this up after the meeting to reflect these comments. It's actually reflecting the 9/11 biome, which Mariama will gladly send me information on. So we'll reflect that. So therefore, be it resolved, one, we urge the city to leverage its buying power to assist with equipment necessary to conduct outdoor dining activities. Therefore, be it further resolved, we urge the city government to purchase these supplies on behalf of restaurants, reference 9/11 buying program, from which the restaurants and small businesses can purchase directly from the city. Does that sound like a plan?
It sounds good to me.
And
Sounds
Kyle,
good
if you
to me.
can, make it more broad, meaning not just heaters,
Right.
the cost for actually building the structure outside.
Yeah, no, we covered that. I think it was, I forgot who said it, but we changed it from heaters to equipment necessary to conduct outdoor dining activities.
Perfect.
Solid. This is great work, guys. I like this. Unless there's any other, sorry, Alice, go ahead. Sorry, Alice.
Yeah, I guess I just got a little lost. Maybe what I'm reading here is no longer the resolution. So whereas New York City recently outlined guidelines for the use of propane heaters and the other whereas about propane, I do think it's important to identify the three types of heaters that are allowed by the city currently, which are electric radiant heaters, natural gas radiant heaters, and portable heaters. And they're all different, and I think I would specify them. I do question this idea, though, of just any kind of equipment, because I do think, to Bob's next point, these outdoor bubbles are, in fact, a form of, at least what I've read, Petri dishes of a certain type. So I don't know that we necessarily want to go on a limb as to sort of opining on every measure, but the three that have been allowed by the city are ones that should be definitely afforded to restaurant owners. And so I would just specify those, what are already allowed, and maybe be that specific so that you have electric and gas and portable.
To politely push back a little bit, that's why we're not being specific, because I don't want to, I always say with my resolutions, I don't want to pick the paint, I don't want to pick the blinds. We're offering a path or a suggestion to make it less expensive for restaurants and businesses to buy things. We're not asking to regulate what things they can buy. That's not up to us. That's up to the city.
No, I'm just saying the city has already made that regulation, Colin, so there are only three available. So I would just, I think that might be helpful, but I understand your point. So that was it. Never mind. We'll go right, going forward. Thanks.
I see no other hands.
I'm sorry, is it equipment and supplies? Because it isn't just equipment, you're also talking about the supplies necessary to build the enclosures, whether we totally agree or not, it's still supplies.
I'm okay with that. So the two resolutions are now one, and again, this is a work in progress, but hopefully we'll be voting for the spirit on this. And again, I am sorry for not having these completely prepared. It's completely on me. I was crushed at work, so I'm sorry. Therefore, be it resolved, we urge New York City government to use municipal buying power to assist with equipment necessary to conduct outdoor dining activities. Therefore, be it further resolved, we urge the city government to purchase equipment and supplies on behalf of restaurants, reference 9/11 buying program, to be purchased directly from the city. But I hear all of you. If you trust me to tighten that a little bit better, I think it sounds like we all agree on the spirit of it.
Colin, do you mean purchased or acquired from the city?
I would love for the city to give it away. I really would, but I don't think that's realistic. But,
No, not. Sorry. That was me chuckling. Yeah, no.
So I think, again, as Bill agreed, if we can even somehow manufacture a 5 to 10% savings on equipment, I think that would be a win.
So what you're asking the city to do, to use its purchase power for negotiation to be able to get at lower costs.
Yeah.
By purchasing in bulk to help the businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I could be completely wrong about the reality of this, but it seems logical to me.
Actually, they don't even need to purchase as long as they make it available to be acquired. I don't care if they negotiate with vendors directly to give a discount if it's being shipped to a New York City business.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Colin, is that the third one?
That's the third one. The only other thing I wanted to mention is I'm completely open to ideas. I want to do a resolution on, I know venues are very touchy with this group, but venues are dying. We're losing all, I'm a musician, people know that, but we're losing all of our independent venues. Bartenders, sound engineers, door guys, they're all unemployed. They're losing money. These venues are going to go away. They're not going to have jobs when this thing is over. I don't know what that means yet. There's different organizations that are working on this, but I would very much like to entertain ideas from anybody on how we can do that next time.
I actually think that's a great idea. We can work on it. You know, we have a lot of venues in Lower Manhattan already. We are on record as not necessarily looking for more large venues necessarily, but we do have the World Trade Center, Performing Arts Center that's going to open. We've got lots of other small venues and places where people have performed all across Lower Manhattan. It's one of the things that makes, Manhattan so fantastic, even as far as, outdoor beautiful things that have happened at Castle Clinton, Pier 17 and et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a very valued. If people have some great ideas, let's take them on, because Broadway doesn't only stay on Broadway. We have lots of entertainment all over Lower Manhattan and artists and galleries
Sorry.
Go ahead.
For those who don't know, I am a musician and I've played at some of the bigger venues in town, Gramercy Theater, Bowery Ballroom, some of the more independent venues. And I got to know the sound people, got to know the engineers, they're all good people. They all make, $7.50 an hour, $10 an hour. They depend on our tips to help them out. And they're all unemployed right now. And not only do they not have jobs now, but those venues are collapsing. Bowery Presents is one of the larger promoters in town. They own a lot of these venues, but these places were already going under before the pandemic. And Tammy's 100,000% correct. That's what makes New York, New York, is entertainment, is the arts, is music. And I'm not getting emotional, but this is something we need to work together to save. I don't know what that means yet. So I would definitely entertain ideas.
Yeah, I think it's something that I'm going to give an homage shout out to Tom Goodkind, who used to bring his DVDs and hand them out at Christmas time to everybody for his band. So yeah. We have a long history of supporting the arts in many different ways. So let's think about that kind of stuff. And if we can figure it out, I mean, I will say, if anybody goes up to Trader Joe's up on Spring Street, every weekend you can hear a lovely band playing on the street corner across the street at the cafe. So, I mean, people are dying for work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it for Small Business Working Group. I look forward to.
No, you can't go anywhere yet because we're going to take a vote on the 3 if we have quorum for executive. That's how we're kicking executive off.
Oh, got it.
So,
Okay.
Tammy, we were only one short of a quorum. Executive has done wonderfully with quorum. How do you want me to do this? Do you want me to take all 3 at once?
If we have no objections, I would take all 3 at once. Yes. Let's just see who we've got for quorum. So I've got me, Colin, I see Alice, I see Bob, who's going to represent Battery Park City tonight. I see Brittany on.
Hey, Bob.
Yay, Bob, that's right. I've got Elizabeth Lewinson for personnel. I've got Fern, are you sitting in for Patrick today?
Patrick's on.
Nope.
Oh,
Patrick, good. Okay.
Okay.
I got Pat, I got Patrick, I got Paul. I think I have quorum.
Oh,
Don't I
yeah,
have
you're
quorum?
great. You're only one short of a quorum.
Have me.
I got Susan. Yeah, I see Susan. Are you sure I'm one short? What am I quorum
Yes.
for?
But I don't want to say who that is.
Oh, I'm here. Did you put treasurer?
I got you for treasurer, Mariana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're great. We have 13.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, I think I'm good. All right. So with
I meant one short of a full roster. So sorry.
well, hell's bells. We had execs show up. What can I tell you? All right. So with that, hi everybody. Betty, do you still have your hand up from before, or do you have a new question? Betty's hand is down. We have a member of the public with a hand up, Dimitri. Diana, if you'll unmute him before we go to call a question, let's make sure we've got all the public hands taken care of.
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic. So without that, if I hear a call, if I call for the question, do I have a second?
Second.
Fantastic. Let's take all 3 Small Business Working Group resolutions together. And because this is not full board, we're going to go the way we normally go. I will assume everyone is a yay. If you are a nay, or you are an abstention or a recusal, I ask that you please say the name, your vote, and which one of the 3. Okay? So do I hear any nays? Okay. Do I hear any abstentions? Do I hear any recusals? Fantastic. Motions passed unanimously. Thank you very much, Colin, and thank you, the Small Business Working Group, for all the work that you're doing. God knows we need you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Diana, how do I do this?
You stop sharing, or we take it from you.
I can't stop sharing.
I'll take control from you.
Take control.
Okay.
All right. You're all set, Tammy.
Thanks again, everybody. That was great. I appreciate it.
Colin.
Not a problem, Colin. Thank you so much. All right, Lucian, if you don't mind putting the executive agenda up, that would be great.
Got it. Working on it.
No worries. Okay, so we are going to roll into the very first resolution, which should be super easy. Our task forces are only a 1-year commitment and our working groups. So for now, in order, so we don't have to do this in December, we're going to renew the street fair task force. And if you're asking me why, I'm going to tell you that we're hoping in 2021, because I'm an optimist, that we will get back to the potential of maybe being able to have holiday fairs outside or anything and everything on the outsides. So this is just a business part of renewal for the Street Fair Task Force that runs January to January for 2021. Literally, that's what the resolution is. That's it.
Tammy, it's Darren. Say anything?
Yep. I was about to recognize you and say, Darren, take it away if you have something you'd like to add.
No, nothing to add. This is a resolution that we pass every year around this time of the year. And I look forward to continuing working with the Street Fair Task Force in 2021. And as echo Tammy's sentiments here that, last we heard possibly summer onward might work for street fairs. I'm a little probably not as optimistic about that time frame, but we'll see what happens. So maybe the second half of the year we'll have something.
Exactly. Anybody have any questions on that for Darren or myself? I see no hands of board members.
Tammy, would you like to send text to this resolution?
Yeah, if you've got it, let's put it up. Absolutely. Okay. So you see where we started. It's a task force. It's really basically how it rolls. For anybody who can't read it, I will, because you're on a telephone, the therefore be it resolved says CB1 hereby authorizes the sponsorship of street fairs by CB1 in 2021 to raise funds to support the work of the organization, extends the existence of the task force for an additional year subject to appointment of members by the chair of CB1 provided by our bylaws, grants the task force the authority to determine whether it's appropriate to solicit bids from street fair promoters, which is something that they have to do, for street fair sponsored by CB1 following an evaluation in manner in which the current promoter has performed its obligation with respect to post-pandemic street fairs and any proposal that the promoter may choose to make in order to conduct. Okay, can we call a question? Do I have a second?
Second.
I second.
Awesome. So on that point, again, same thing as we did with Small Business Working Group. If you have a concern or you want to abstain or recuse, you say your name and then you would say the vote. All right. So if I do not hear anything, I'll move to the next topic. So you do not have to say in favor. Do I have any nays? Do I have any abstentions? Do I have any recusals? Motion passes. Moving on. I'm liking this. This is as productive as we've been. Okay, 13 Harrison Street. I have Jason on. Yes. I know Bruce is not necessarily here tonight. Jason, you with me? And can you present about 13 Harrison?
Jason, would you like me to give you presentation controls? Do you have any materials that you'd like to put on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, I'll see if I can't get the slides and throw them on the screen.
Yep. So I can give you only the information that I have thus far. 13 Harrison was presented at the Landmarks Committee this month for those who attended. This was a large dialogue that went through, and we have received subsequent information since the meeting, which is why this has now come into executive, because the resolution as passed in committee was not complete. What we have learned in our experiences with getting things scheduled at LPC is if they are on the calendar, we really do need to move this here into executive to make any changes that are needed. So our vote is on record. And with that, let's see where we are. Okay. I'm actually going to even call Jason and make sure if he has stepped away that he's back.
Bruce is on too, but he's in attendees.
Thank you for finding Bruce. Can you move Bruce over? Can you guys talk? Can you move Bruce over or talk about the reso?
Yeah, I just got
Hey,
Bruce
Jason,
over.
here you are. Jason, is it you or Bruce?
I think, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear. Bruce,
Bruce
we
is
need to
off.
move Bruce over.
Oh, no, he's here?
He's
Okay.
here.
Okay, so
He
he
just
wanted to do
texted
it
me
unless
that-
unless it was after 7, so let's give him a chance, otherwise I'm here.
Let's find.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No?
Oh,
I've
hello,
been trying
Bruce.
to speak for the last 20 minutes about, but I just couldn't get on. I was a panelist or I was a reporter or something. It
Okay.
just didn't
You're
work.
on. Take it away,
I-
Bruce.
So this was an interesting resolution. You wouldn't think it was that important because it's a relatively small building, but there were issues when the presentation was made at the Landmarks Committee. However, it was represented that it really isn't visible from the directly in front of the building, which is in the Tribeca West Historic District. And the mock-up is what they show with tape as to how tall it will be, and the massing of whatever it is appeared relatively smaller. I don't have the deck with me that shows the side angle, the view corridor from Greenwich Street, but there was no mock-up when the presentation was made. They then put the mock-up up or back up for 3 days. It came down Saturday. I went and looked at it twice, and it certainly was not only very visible, but in the context of the block, as you can see, I think, the block is absolutely, one assembly with no encumbrances from Staple all the way to Greenwich and around. It's the perfect 19th century, late 19th century Tribeca Landmark District block. And while it's hard to see all the red is the mock-up. It's very intrusive. That building happens to be in a set of buildings, as you can see, that are almost identical, same era, even, same street front, equal cornice. And I did take a little video, which I hope can be shown at the full board meeting. So I wrote one resolution as voted on by the Landmarks Committee. And I wrote another resolution based on what I consider new information for the Executive Committee. I spoke to our parliamentarian, and it was difficult to, just to amend the resolution at the full board meeting is difficult because one is an approval and one is a rejection. It's not like an amendment. It's not like adding a whereas or adding a qualifying word. And I mean, you could read what I wrote it's short. You can read what I wrote for the Executive Committee. So this was the only way to handle it at this hour.
So Bruce, the red part, just so everybody for executive understands, the red part is what's being shown as the mock-up. And yes, the applicant represented at the meeting that it was not visible from the street.
No, they represented that it was not visible looking due south from in front of the building on Harrison Street. But this is the corner of Harrison Street and Greenwich. This is the end of the block. It's very visible. And it's even more visible if you pull out in the context of the whole block. I don't know if we can do videos in the meeting, but it's like a 4-second video panning the block. which really gives a context to the mock-up. So what they're building, the length of it is like totally visible. You know, it's a big, and it's 28 feet high. So no, I could be overly strict. However, also, it's like a 2-story sloped glass facade, which you can see in the prior picture. They said you wouldn't see that from the street, but of course you would. Looking at the mock-up and going back to the plan view, the front of it, if you can go back.
There you go.
It's hard to see there. There's in doing a contextuality program in the deck, which every application does. There wasn't one example from the Tribeca West Historic District, Greenwich Village and Hudson Square, but there was none, probably because there is none like that. You know, it's a contemporary glass erection on a 19th century block. So that's all something to do with. I don't know exactly how.
All right, so we've got hands up. Let's go through hands up. And while we're doing hands up, Lucian, would you please put the resolution that Bruce sent up? And Susan Cole, you're first.
I think they were disingenuous at best. I don't know how Jason and Bruce feel. I walked by as well. So, I mean, I don't think they told us the truth. That's all I wanted to say.
Susan,
Gotcha.
I have to ask you something because I feel like, I never do this. I have to represent the committee regardless of my feelings. But you do, I'm glad you felt and noticed the same thing I did. There was a big difference between the mock-up and what they presented, right?
Yes, I thought I was nuts. I walked by just to look. Okay. Jason, did you go by?
I didn't in this chance, but we saw this thing happen kind of a couple months ago with the garage building, and
exactly,
we just need to protect our
yes, I agree,
voting rights here. But from that picture,
so
it's not as bad.
I do want to let.
Let's go. Okay.
Jason, I do want to say that the applicant is on the line. I see his hand is up, so I'm going to give the applicant an opportunity. If you can, I don't know if Dimitri is with the applicant or not, but I know Bill was the applicant. So let's unmute Bill, who's in the attendees section. And Dimitri, if you don't mind chatting with the host and letting me know what your hand up is for, that would be great. So, Luce, I think I am the host. There we go. Bill, you're unmuted.
Hello, thank you. It's awfully painful to hear somebody say that they think I was not being truthful or disingenuous. At that meeting, I was quite clear that we could see the mock-up because the images you're showing now are the same, that you could see it from that long view all the way from Greenwich. I don't think anyone can see it. I know you can't from Staple Street or from Hudson or from out front. So let's, I don't think it's quite appropriate to paint me with a brush as if I was pulling wool over anyone's eyes whatsoever here. We put the mock-up back up out there in total desire for you to go out and see it. We had tried earlier to get you to see it, but we had communication issues, not getting through to the board. Secondly, let's be clear too, if we were to pull up the section, we would see that it is only a one-story addition. The 28 feet includes the bulkhead to the high roof. There is really only 16 feet for the first portion of the addition, and then the remaining piece is the bulkhead for roof access.
May I add that if you notice the whereas that I wrote, I didn't cast aspersions. I just said upon viewing the mock-up, the proposed roof addition appears larger and more visible than presentation materials seemed to indicate.
That's painful to even read that, Bruce, I have to say, because the mock-up is built exactly as the presentation materials show. The photographs are as real as what you saw, and I'd be happy to see your video because I'm sure it's identical.
Well, let me say then, without casting aspersions, that when you say, you know, in the distance far away, 3 buildings away from the mock-up, on the corner of the street, which is a totally legitimate view corridor. In fact, it's significant. That's where these pictures were taken. So
that's the minimally visible
to say it's
one.
far away.
Bruce, that's the minimally visible one. Put them both up there. There's a short one from the trash can, which would be the normal corner. Had the Independence Plaza building been built out to the street line, like all the rest of the community has been built. But in this particular case, Independence Plaza is back about another 100 feet. So there's a longer view. The thing that you're looking at that you think is large is from that larger view, and you will be seeing party wall. What's red netting, if you were to bring up our rendering, you would see is going to become red brick, party wall brick, like everything else.
Can I ask a question? Is the
yeah, sure, go ahead.
The orange that we see in Bruce's picture, or whatever picture was up here before, a representation of the bulkhead of the building?
Yes. Yes, that's the bulkhead poking up in the first photo.
Let's get that picture up again, please. Well, Bruce, did you have your own photo, just to be clear about which photo you looked at before?
I would like to know, I'm unclear now, which photo of the view corridor looking east is being presented. I took a number of photos. I took a 3-second video and I sent it to Jen and asked that Jen show it at the full board meeting. I don't know what is being, is Jennifer here?
I got you, Bruce. The photo was shown.
That photo there is the one that's from the trash can that's closer. The next image is the one that's back at the face of the building. I think that's
all that.
Oh, this is the one. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is the one that's on the corner. Okay. You can see the street sign. We're standing practically next to the sign. The next one, and in this image, all that's orange is the bulkhead. When you go to the next image,
okay,
it's us moving back closer to this one. Now we're back closer to Independence Plaza, and the side of this is brick. The upper piece is the bulkhead. The lower portion is brick.
And Bill, that picture was in your presentation in some
Correct.
way?
This is the picture from our presentation.
Okay. Well, then I don't feel like you misrepresented. I'm just going to say, being there, I don't think you misrepresented. If you showed this picture in the deck, I can't really say that you didn't.
I appreciate there's an integrity issue that's important here that this meeting kicked off.
I mean, Bruce, do you agree? If he
I never used the word misrepresentation. I just saw when I saw it.
Okay. Let's Bill.
I will apologize for that. I'm sorry. All right. If I misspoke.
So I think the next, I want to recognize hands up to make sure that if anybody else has hands up or a conversation before we go through this. Colin.
Kind of off the beaten track here, but if this is built, where will the labor come from? Who will you be hiring? And can you make it local?
Yes, it will be local.
All right, cool.
Bill is a well-valued local CB resident himself. All right.
Which is why I did not cast aspersions.
Exactly. All right. So let's see. I'm going through to see if there's any other hands up. I don't see hands. Dimitri, did you want to speak on this? I am unmuting you.
Thank you, Tammy. For Tribeca Alliance, we have no opinion on this at all. But just as an owner on Harrison Street, I think any investment in our community is welcomed, and I think Bill's design is pretty cool, actually, and interesting. And I think if that turns into a beautiful whole design, it's a welcome addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
I have to add that there is a letter that was sent by a neighborhood resident who doesn't live on the block but grew up here, who was very upset about it. Her view won't be blocked. Her lot line window won't be sealed. It has nothing to do with not in my backyard. And I guess I told her she should speak at the full board meeting. So there are many opinions. But I do hope, I don't know if Jennifer is here, but I would like that little 3-second video to be shown at the board so you can get a full sense, if that's possible.
We will work on that for you, Bruce. I'm not Lucian's our tech person. He knows what we can and can't do. I just know how to push buttons.
Thank you.
That's what I'm really good at. All right, so I think we do need to.
I can say that I corresponded a lot with Ji-Hye Chung, who's present in the attendee section. She may wish to be unmuted, but
let me find her. No problem.
Sure. Jihaa.
Yep, got her. I am unmuting you now. I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce your name, Ms. Chung. Ji-Hye?
Hi, this is Paul Chung. I'm Chia's husband.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? So we're owners in 11 Harrison Street. We will be directly getting impacted by this. So I understand lot line windows don't have legal rights or whatnot, but I guess what I'm concerned about is how they're going to attach to the building. Because when 7 Harrison was constructing their or regutting that entire building, it created a lot of damage to the east side wall of 11 Harrison, and we're worried that they're attaching on to this building on the west side wall, and that'll create a lot of damage as well. So we'd really appreciate if we could see like a final drawing that they're going to be filing with, and to confirm the measurements and confirm all dimensions. I think that's something that hopefully they'd be okay providing us with.
Happily, we won't be attaching to your wall. They're separate buildings.
Okay. And that includes that build up too? You won't be attaching there?
No, we will not need to attach to your building. That's your wall. We have our own wall.
How much space will be there between that?
I think I end up with 1 inch at the top due to earthquake criteria. There'll be a little space between my wall or this 13 Harrison Street's wall and 11's based on earthquake code.
Understood. And then one other thing, I was just like, you were proposing a parapet, and it is going to be blocking that second window behind that, or it's our kitchen window. So I don't know like what exactly your detail is there, but
we're putting up a louvered screen to hide air conditioning equipment, and we could very easily work with you to put a device outside to make it so that you can still see some sky from that window, but we would have equipment on top of our bulkhead.
Oh, not the bulkhead. I mean that like that part after the sunroom that you're building, that little roof deck before the bulkhead. You see we have a window there, and in your pictures there too. So from what I'm trying to figure out is like, is that floor gonna run right up to that window?
I'm sorry, I don't understand exactly what you're talking about. If we could point on the photo, would help me.
I don't know how to point on this.
Yeah, no, he can't point.
Picture 4. You see picture 4. You see behind the fence. There's a little black window.
Yeah, the upper one will be looking into this mechanical area where the condensers for the air conditioning equipment will be. The lower window that's in that lower left area behind the orange will be fully blocked by the bulkhead. That's the stair tower coming up.
So that will be covered?
Yes, that you will lose that window. That lot line window will be lost to the stair.
Okay, can you just confirm that with my architect, or like make sure?
Yes, it is George. I have been working with George. Yes.
Okay.
And we adjusted dimensions to make sure that we could keep your living room lot line windows with views.
I think George is on as well. I don't know if you had any comments, but if
George is on, so I will undo George. And again, we're not here to negotiate between the two of you, just so you know. So we do want to move it along. George, you have been unmuted.
Thank you. Yes.
Apologize. I don't mean to sound rude by that, but
No, totally understood. Yeah. Yeah. Just to clarify, I was on site with Bill's staff, and we did see that the kitchen window will not be completely covered, Paul. I think Bill's misunderstood the question there. And there's nothing different here from what he's proposed before. So just, Bill, in speaking with your staff, the parapet, you would expect that you'd be willing to modify the parapet to make sure it does not hit the window. I looked at it with your staff, and he said it looks like it would be possible with Marcos.
Correct. That's correct. Yes.
The only question is how can we verify that that you are making that change? You know, how can we see it made? There needs to be a modification to that detail somehow.
We'll share drawings and dimensions with you.
Okay, and prior to the landmarks hearing?
Yes.
Okay, that
We're
sounds
going
great.
to update this package before then, and we'll send it to you as well as to the committee.
Okay.
So the
Bruce,
package will be
I need you to,
updated.
yeah.
The package will be
Thank you, Bruce.
updated before tomorrow's meeting?
Not for tomorrow. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Not for tomorrow's meeting. I'm updating this package, taking into comment, well, your previous resolution, Bruce. Normally what I would do is take into comment the comments that the community board makes, try to make some adjustments to our design to reflect the community board's comments, expecting a positive resolution, and present the landmarks standing there, knowing that you asked us to work with landmarks, saying that I got ahead of it. I've already made some adjustments. Here they are. Now I'm getting a negative resolution in it, so it's, you know, a little tougher. But we're going to make some adjustments because we guaranteed that to the Chungs next door so that we don't hit their window.
Okay, Bruce, that puts the ball back in your court. George, if you are all done, I'm going to put you back on mute.
Thank you. Yes, I am.
I would say this, I'm prepared to, move forward with a modification with an amended resolution from Landmarks. But I would urge the committee, the Landmarks Committee especially, to look for themselves at the mock-up. Is the mock-up still up? I was told it was only going to be up for 3 days.
We'd like to take it down. It's still up right now.
So you can keep it until tomorrow night's full board meeting.
Yes, it can still be there.
So I would ask that we circulate an email urging the Landmarks Committee to walk by. It's not in a remote part of the district.
So Bruce, the question is, and for our parliamentarian, what are we doing with this resolution tonight?
I would
based on
like
this
to
entire
ask,
dialogue?
as we usually do, I would like to ask those people who are on the Landmarks Committee, Jason and Susan, I don't know if anyone else on the committee is here, and maybe Alice can weigh in as an architect. I would like to ask them what they think we should do.
I like the idea very much of writing into the resolution the part about making sure the staff people get off their tushies and come and see these things, because, and this is not, it's actually less for Bill and more for the application that we did this through before. No one ever came and saw that thing over the garage. I guarantee it. And that's part of their job. And it's not Bill's fault, really, if he keeps it up and it's windy and doesn't want to create, dangerous situations for the neighborhood. And so I'm with you on that, Bruce. And I don't feel, and I see the visibility issues. So I'll leave my vote for the full board meeting on whether I like the visibility or not, but I'm not going to talk more about that.
So Jason, the question
Okay,
is,
what I need to know,
Right.
are we doing this resolution or not? Are we changing this resolution that includes, this is a recommendation to reject it except for the canopy.
Susan?
But originally, Bruce, you wrote one that proved it with the visibility?
No, because, well, there's mention of it, but I hadn't seen it. I mean, the original resolution is also in the packet.
And yeah, and we originally, when we sat at that table, we actually came to a conclusion that we were okay with the visibility as presented.
As presented, yes. There, with asking Molly for LPC to work with the applicants to try to lower the height.
I mean, that's.
I just find it hard to do this without anyone having looked at the mock-up, which is impactful in a way that, you know, that's unusual, especially for such a intact block. That's all I can say. So I have no further remarks, except that given what I'm hearing, maybe we should strongly amend the original resolution if the board agrees. And Susan, do you have any? I'm with you, Susan, wherever you go.
Bruce, am I hearing that I could alter the therefore be resolved to say approves this resolution and recommends the Landmarks Preservation Commission to work with the applicant to continue for the height?
No, I would object to that. If after seeing the mock-up, people want an approved resolution, then it would be approved resolution, but with strong caveats, stronger than what you just said, Lucian. That would be my,
Lucian,
choice.
we have from last week a resolution that approves it. There was dialogue at the meeting last week that said that people were concerned and needed to go look at the mock-up. So that was, you know, the last conversation. Then people went to see the mock-up.
Only two.
Only two.
I see. Yeah. So this will be amended at full board then.
Well, that's the parliament. That was the question that the parliamentarian, JD, by the way, lives at 11 Harrison and wanted to speak. So I'm going to unmute you, JD. JD, you are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay. I have no idea how to utilize this interface. I just dropped in because I actually live in 11 Harrison Street.
Okay.
One of my neighbors who lives actually somewhat higher in the building is more impacted because he has a couple windows. We don't. We're not on a floor with west-facing windows. But I appreciate the seriousness of your conversation and the seriousness with which you're taking the proposal. And I mean, my basic concern is obviously that that if there is going to be, in addition to the 13th Street at 1311 Harrison roof, that it conform to the architectural codes of, you know, this landmark street and with these landmark buildings, and it doesn't go too far astray from that, and that the people who do have windows that are west facing perhaps are not adversely impacted by this, which sounds like if there is something built there, they will be to a certain extent negatively impacted by that. So there are obviously, you know, those issues as well. And also that since there was a major renovation at 79 Harrison Street a few years ago with the building on the corner of Staple and Harrison, that negatively impacted our east wall. We want to make sure, of course, that on engineering terms, that whatever is done on the roof of 13 Harrison, if there is something done, does not negatively impact at engineering structural levels, you know, our building at 11 Harrison Street. That's crucial in terms of our west wall. Anyway,
had the applicant talked to you prior to this and made any, you know, introduction or discussion?
Personally, I've not had any communication with anybody at 13 Harrison about this. I don't know whether one or more of my neighbors in my building has, possibly, but so I don't really know much more beyond what the architectural drawings and that I've seen online, and that's really it. So,
thank you.
Thanks very much.
Is Alice listening? I would love to get her opinion. I know we're dragging this out.
Her hand's
Hi,
up.
Bruce. I would actually had a question. I don't know if for Bill and or for you, but I just was curious. No, I don't have an opinion because I haven't been by there, but I certainly will go tomorrow. But I'm just curious, what exactly are we talking about? Is this what is the floor to ceiling height of each floor? Is there 2 floors that are going up
No,
there?
there's one floor that's being added, and then then the continuation of the stair tower and bulkhead to the roof of that. So we're adding a story.
And what is the floor to ceiling height of that story?
Oh, we need to bring up our deck again. I think it's 12 feet. I think the first story is 12 feet, and then the next one is somewhat similar, not quite that tall, to the top of the stair tower. And then there's about 4 feet of louver on top of that hides the mechanical equipment.
Well, I guess
I'm sorry, Alex, go ahead.
I just was going to ask the question, Bill, is there any room for modifying this at all so that, it's less of a floor to ceiling height, or that's not really?
I think on the top bulkhead, that's where I am. That last piece is the piece that we're trying to shrink now in advance of going back to landmarks, responding to Bruce's comment from last week's meeting, seeing what we can do to pull down both the bulkhead height and the mechanical equipment.
And what about the actual size of the floor to ceiling?
Well, the 12-foot floor to floor for that expense, I don't even get a 10-foot ceiling by the time I'm done.
I see. Okay.
And that's going to be the main living floor of the house, since all the other floors of that building were built with such small windows, given the history of the building and its original purpose.
Small windows, but okay.
Correct. That's correct. No light. That's why we're taking the public floors at the top of the building to get light.
Okay, thanks. That was my question. Thanks.
So here's, Bruce, the question of where we need to figure this out. If you are not doing a resolution from here now, right, then we need to move on. If you're going to amend the one at full board.
I'm going to, listening to the comments, there isn't a strong feeling. I mean, Susan saw what I saw. That's 2 of us, but there's some, ambiguity about how the committee feels. I think now it may be best to try to amend the original resolution.
You have one remaining hand up, just so you know.
I'm sorry, Mary Emma?
You have one remaining hand up, just so you know, George Showman.
Actually, George spoke before. I haven't taken his hand down. George is the architect or architectural consultant for the existing tenants in the other building.
But I do want other, I'm sorry, go ahead.
George, do you have anything you need to add? Whoa, Bruce, you're flashing.
No, thank you. No, you covered me.
So all right, I'm muting you back. Thank you, Mariama, but I had him, so I'm going to clear his hand down. So I think that what you need to do is, based on having been at landmarks, and unless our parliamentarian thinks differently, you need to come up with the friendly amendments based on the dialogues that can be added. Because if you're still approving it with the notion that, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, you are looking to lower the bulkhead and lower the overall height to be less visible, correct?
Correct.
Bill, is the glass, I couldn't tell from the mock-up. So the glass, the long glass, the facade, that's not visible from that Greenwich and Harrison View corridor?
Not really the side of it. The masonry wall that closes the glass piece off is what you're going to see from over there.
Okay.
The party wall of it.
But I do want the hour that I spent additionally on this executive committee. I want that hour back. I'll never have it.
So do
How
Bruce.
can I give it to you?
Bruce, you owe me for me answering the phone at the soccer field. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
And
so thank you
so
very
I'm
much. We're going to rescind.
You're
You're done. We're going to rescind that part of, it was not a resolution that was passed, so it'll go away and the resolution from committee will stand. Please get your friendly amendments based on this to Jen so she can have them ready for full board tomorrow.
And with the city bike, I leave it to Mariama. She will represent me. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye, Bruce.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye. How do you get off this thing?
Yeah, oh gosh, Bruce. I think I need to mute Bruce. Okay, so we're headed back now to the agenda. And the next thing coming up on my agenda is executive and small business. All right, is DOT cargo by proposal on Warren Street. So there's been a lot of activity on this. I'm going to pull up, Lucian, please let me know if you can pull up the letter from Commissioner Pinkar or I need to.
I got it.
Okay. So we have had a robust dialogue. Betty started the process in transportation, and it was a very robust dialogue. We asked for more information, and we also asked for neighborhood feedback. We did receive both a letter from one of the neighboring buildings, which, Lucian, I hope you have that one as well, and a letter from Commissioner Pinkar. So this is an update, and I do think we do need to do a resolution to be on record, because that's how we become on record for everything that happens with a city agency. So they came in around the same time to me. So let's start with this. This is an update from Commissioner Pinkar saying that they're basically doing the bike ride, the cargo. If you can scroll down on the letter, Lucian. Ooh. Okay, so you can see, and I can annotate, so here, where I've highlighted, basically after going through all of this, they said that they have done detailed information about the proposal and in-person outreach to the stakeholders on Warren Street. We have a follow-up from one of the stakeholders. After the comments during outreach, and they understand that we still have concerns, they're deciding to move forward with the implementation of this project this fall, which means this month, basically, for a 6-month pilot. So keep going to the next. It says during the pilot evaluation period, DOT will monitor the area, keep CB1 updated on its operations. And they've made some modifications. They're shortening the corral from 120 to 100 feet, and to address concerns about loss of overnight weekend parking. So that's only 5 spaces instead of 6. They're going to require Whole Foods to keep the bike racks on the sides open for public use. DOT has confirmed Whole Foods plans to phase out the vans at this location by the end of the year if the corral is installed in November. And DOT is separately from this project going to look for opportunities to restore parking on surrounding areas. Next, can you bring up the letter from the local constituents? And JD.
Victoria, was it Jamie's?
Yes. And for everyone who is on this call, please note that to be recorded for what you need for the public record, we do not record the chats. So you must be verbal to identify yourself and speak up much as you would at a public meeting. All right. For JD, who has sent me a quiet note about something else, I ask you to email the community board office and speak with Lucian Reynolds. And I will have him contact you and send you a
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All righty. So if you can please, Lucian, find the letter.
I have the email that was sent today, but I don't want to show his email address, so I need to export it to a PDF. You'll see it in a moment.
You got it. So while we're waiting for Lucian, I will say that we have been working on this for a long time. And looks like we'll be working a little bit longer. I'm going to start while Lucian is waiting to pull that up. We had received, I'll tell you what it is. It is a letter that came to us from the property manager from the Warren Street condo that the bike corral is right in front of at 99 Warren. So it's, he represents 99 Warren and 101 Warren Street. And I'm not sure if he's on today. I will take a look through the chat. If you are, Jamie, please put your hand up. So it has many of the same concerns that we have had as a board. Oh, Jamie. I see you. Gotcha. Okay, Jamie, you can speak for yourself. You are unmuted, and we're trying to work on the pictures to get them up. Go for it.
Thanks, Tammy. So I do want to address a couple points from the Department of Transportation letter. Before I do, we certainly respect everything that they've done thus far to try to help carbon emissions and everything like that. But from my perspective, as I mentioned right here, no one in the building was surveyed. I certainly wasn't surveyed. The staff wasn't surveyed. So I'm not sure if that's a valid survey. Secondly, on the, as you can see, if you scroll down on the picture, they forgot about 99 Warren Street, which is kind of a big oversight, particularly as they said that they did a traffic study. They forgot about a fire hydrant. So we actually measured, there's 98 feet that cover that Whole Foods area. If you take out the fire hydrant, which is 15 feet on either side, you're down to about 65 feet of usable space in front of Whole Foods Market, unless they plan on blocking the fire hydrant. There's also significant bus activity, but I'll let the residents themselves speak on their concerns, quite honestly. But in speaking of the disappointment that I personally have for how this has been presented, in the letter that you had just pulled up shortly before, it's something as simple as a letter dated today, being the 23rd of November, with a promise that if it's built by the end of November, that Whole Foods will not have trucks through the end of the year. So I'm not sure, you know, what the point of that is, when clearly, I'm assuming they're not building it over Thanksgiving, but it's just one more step of how this has been presented as an option. Then they say they're going to do it anyway. Then they say, oh, well, we're going to do it, but make sure that there's less trucks by the end of the year, but only if we have it built in the next 2 business working days. So my concern, both as a resident of the neighborhood and obviously a representative of this building as well as other buildings in the area, is it doesn't seem like the input of the residents or of the community board is necessarily being taken at face value, and they seem to be just saying whatever is convenient in that time.
Gotcha. I see Annalise. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Jamie, or are you all set?
No, I mean, I may say something later, but I think it's time for the residents of this building, which are going to be most impacted, as well as some of the PTAs and other things, to be able to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Annalise.
Hi, can you hear? Hi.
I can.
So I'm speaking as a mother of 101 Warren, as a mother of PS 234, as a mother of children who use the community center, as a mother of kids who use the ball fields, and a mother of many kids at PS 89, that this is really not a good idea for the safety of the street is super high pedestrian traffic. It is really the epicenter of children in the neighborhood, And I spoke to the principal of 234. I spoke to Bob Townley at the community center. Everybody's extremely concerned. Just as a few examples, kids at 234 line up on Warren Street morning and afternoon for drop-off and pickup. 4th and 5th graders are allowed to walk to school alone and leave school alone. The bikes will be tearing down Warren Street the wrong way. And it's just really an accident waiting to happen. You've got kids accessing the ball fields, hundreds of children a day going down Warren Street. And meanwhile, Whole Foods and Amazon can afford to relocate their refrigerators, which is really their biggest problem. They just need to relocate their refrigerators to their Murray Street loading docks, which is an industrial loading dock area, which is more appropriate for the commercial activity of messenger bikes tearing in and out. And I don't want to see a kid get struck and then we all look back and say, why did we allow this to happen? I'm very, very concerned, even for my 15-year-old son. The teenagers are almost the worst. They walk around with their faces in their phones, and something will happen. It's completely unnecessary. This is a residential street with high pedestrian traffic, so I'll let other people talk.
Thank you, Annalise. I'm going to Allison Bowen and then Todd J. Mitty. Allison, you're unmuted.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Just fine.
Terrific. I'm also a mother in the neighborhood. Two of my kids go to PS 234. We also use the community center across the street and go to downtown Little League and downtown Soccer League across the street as well. And I will reiterate what Annalise said about this being an incredibly heavily trafficked block, because it's the main access for people going to the east for PS 89 or coming from the east for the ball fields, as well as people going across the street for PS 234. And one of the things that I really want to point out for people who have or haven't walked around the building is that there are 3 large indoor cargo bays at this Amazon Whole Foods location that are perfectly capable of handling this requirement. I mean, we're dealing with Amazon here, one of the largest and wealthiest companies in the world. And what it seems like is they don't want to reconfigure their store to use those cargo bays because it's easier for them to load on Warren Street. And DOT is giving them an opportunity not to have to spend that money and instead spend the public money and take public space when Amazon could spend their own money, lessen the safety risk, and use the space they already have. As another point that I want to make here, it's frankly safer for the bikes on the bike corral to be in a protected area in their cargo bay instead of out here on the street. And then one other thing I'd like to say is, we say this is a public space, but it's right outside Amazon store, so it's going to be used by Amazon. I mean, they do deliveries at all times of the day and night. And in terms of needing additional bike racks, we have plenty of unused bike racks on Greenwich Street on the other side by the main entrance of the Whole Foods store. But frankly, bikes are abandoned there, and other things are locked to those bike corrals, bike stands for plenty of time. I mean, I don't think that this is a public benefit to have this corral on Warren Street.
Gotcha. Allison, thank you so much. We're going to Todd J. Mitty and then Patricia, then Adam Weiss, then Jung Min, then Emily. If you are repeating what someone else has said, we encourage you to say, I agree with Allison or with Jamie, with Annalise. You do not need to repeat everybody. Todd, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Tammy, and thank you to the executive committee for hearing our voice tonight. A little bit of history, and I'm also struck by the prior presentation where your committee was focused on the preservation of the neighborhood. Warren Street is not, I repeat, not a commercial loading and unloading zone. Whole Foods is treating it as a commercial loading and unloading zone when they in fact have a designated, specified, and quite generous loading and unloading zone on Murray Street. We're here tonight because way back when Whole Foods first opened, their design included a large walk-in refrigeration unit at the Warren Street entrance to Whole Foods. And that's when it was kind of a sleepy delivery service where people would put stuff into that refrigerator and be sort of hand delivered later in the day or by vans. Whole Foods and now Amazon have refused to modify their space to reposition that refrigeration unit toward the south part of their store, which goes toward Murray Street. And so Murray Street is where their storage, fulfillment, and dispatching and distribution should be taking place. That is where a commercial loading and unloading area has been designated by zoning and by the original sponsor that built it. And when you go and look at it, and we have pictures of it, it is not only underutilized and not optimized, it's just being used to probably illegally store a refrigeration unit, or I should say refrigeration truck that's not being used. So they're expanding their space. And so I think people need to take a very hard look at, is the space that is fit for purpose for this particular use of using bikes or whatever they want to use being used? And the answer is it is not. So why should we as the community and neighbors suffer for the fact that Whole Foods is not willing to change the design on the interior of their store? I do not believe that Warren Street is zoned as commercial loading and unloading. If you look at Tribeca, and you can see where all the trucks used to back up on the streets into those loading bays that used to exist in Tribeca, that's how that used to be. But Warren Street, as it's been built now, between West Street and Greenwich, is not commercial loading and unloading. And I'll also add that we all want to sort of applaud the hand carts that were brought in by Whole Foods. The problem is there's many of them. They're running over people that are walking down the street, not literally running over, but they run into them. They take over. They move fast. Everybody's got to get out of their way. Now you're going to augment that with bicycles that are going to ride on the sidewalk. Whether we like it or not, they're going to ride on the sidewalk. There is absolutely no necessity to place this bike corral on Warren Street. Zero. It could all be done on Murray Street in a designated area, be out of everyone's way, and there'd be no contention from any of us on this call. So we're here scratching our heads, puzzled by why we're even having this discussion, particularly in the letter that's up right now on the screen. If you go to one of the first or second paragraphs, it talks about the bicycles being in a commercial loading and unloading zone. Great. That's not Warren Street. That's the area at Murray Street.
It is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. I'm muting you. By the way, what they're talking about is there is a commercial loading zone that is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday at the side there. So just everyone remember that that is actually existing. Patricia, you are unmuted, and then after you comes Adam, and then Jung Min, Emily, David, Tanya, and the list is growing. Go ahead, Patricia. Patricia? I'm putting her back on mute. You can chat to me if you come back. Okay. Adam Weiss, you are unmuted. Adam. I'm muting you back. Jung Min. And remember, before I unmute Jung Min, if you agree with someone, it is good to let us know that, but you can put it either in the Q&A where other people can see it, but only the host or the presenter can see the chat, so it's not public record. Jung Min, you're unmuted.
Hi, Tammy. It's nice to see you at these meetings. It's lovely. And Andrew Zelter, also lovely to see you. Thank you all for your service on the executive board of CB1. It's for people like you who devote so much time to our neighborhood, that we have the wonderful neighborhoods that we do. As a resident of 101 Warren Street, I strongly agree with the previous speakers, but the different thing that I want to add here, the two different things that I want to add here are that with all the construction that recently completed on Warren Street, we resume the service of a number of bus lines down Warren Street. The M9 bus comes along, as well as a downtown connection, which only adds to the congestion of Warren Street. Those are two bus lines that are very popular, that bring people from Battery Park City to Whole Foods and then take them on their way. So that is something to be considered strongly. And those bus lines were suspended because of Warren Street construction. So we are now enjoying those bus lines again on Warren Street, but only to be complicated by this new bus depot. So that's point one. The second point is that, make no mistake, Whole Foods is now Amazon. If you have not gone inside Whole Foods lately, it has become an Amazon fulfillment center. And the takeover of Warren Street is just another sign of how Amazon has infiltrated this neighborhood with its fulfillment of all kinds of goods through Whole Foods. And I have seen the evolution of our neighborhood Whole Foods from day one, where we were able to welcome Whole Foods as a wonderful grocery store, but is now turned into and transformed into another Amazon fulfillment center, which, with all the political ups and downs of Roosevelt Island, has now found home on Warren Street. So I'd like everyone to be aware that it is not just Whole Foods that we're talking about, is definitely Amazon. And for Amazon to be smack dab in the middle of Tribeca is really anathema to me. And I wholeheartedly agree with the previous speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Jeanne. All right. Emily Lynn, you are unmuted.
Hi, I'm a resident of 101 Warren as well. And I wanted to thank the community board for hosting this forum where we can hopefully work together to make the community a safer place. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Annalise, Jungmann, and Jay have already mentioned. One thing I wanted to point out is in the DOT's letter, they said they're going to trial this for 6 months. And I guess they're going to study what sort of impact it has on local pedestrian traffic and the community. The thing I wanted to point out is that we are in the middle of COVID right now. And I don't know if you're familiar with pedestrian traffic, but it's significantly lower than normal. So I kind of scratch my head and wonder what sort of results you're going to get by studying it for the next 6 months when things are not normal. And that's just something I would put out there to DOT, if they were to come back to us with a study and say, oh, everything's great and wonderful. But the conditions on the street right now are not anywhere near what I would say is normal for Tribeca, Warren Street. That's it.
Good point, Emily. David Posen. David, it looks like good. How are you? David, you're on. Oops.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, David. I muted you by accident. That was me. Apologies. You're on.
No problem. So Tammy, thank you, and thanks to the community board for the work that you do on our behalf. First, I wholeheartedly agree with the comments that have been made thus far. I won't repeat them. To save us time, I will underscore one though, which is simply that a couple. One is that the amount of pedestrian traffic on Warren is considerable. That point I think has been made, and I think it's fairly obvious just based upon the location of PS 234 downtown community center and the fact that it is the primary way to get to the Battery Park ball fields and and Rockefeller Park. I guess I wish I had a visual to represent it, but as a member of the community, I'm sure you are aware, it's a single lane road with, you know, cars parked on either side and a very narrow passage for the buses and trucks that go down it currently. Contrast that with Murray, which is 4 lanes and gets a significantly lesser amount of pedestrian traffic. You know, the points have been made by Todd very eloquently about the availability of the 3 loading docks and the fact that Murray Street is, you know, outfitted for that type of staging. But I just want to make sure that, you know, the point is underscored. It's not simply a question of, you know, it's the combination of the volume of commuter, well, volume, excuse me, I didn't mean commuter, but pedestrian traffic on Warren Street versus, you know, far less on Murray Street, but also the fact that Murray Street is 4 times as wide without the same volume of, you know, of commercial traffic going through. So I'll leave it at that so we can move on to the next, you know, the next person participating.
I appreciate that. Don't worry, I've got a long list. Keep going. Tanya, you are, before I unmute you, Tanya, I'm going back to see if the people who had stepped away are back. No, they're not. So Tanya, you're next. I've unmuted you. Stephanie Cliven is after that. Hirshin, Mary. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, keep going.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for spending so much time on this and for the opportunity to hear members of the community. I want to, you know, I definitely say that I agree with the comments that my, you know, other residents have made, and a few that I'd like to underscore as well. You know, while, you know, as a resident, as a mother of 2 young kids, you know, I definitely want this to be a safe community and also one with lower carbon emissions. So I can, you know, that seems like a, you know, a good move on one hand. On the other hand, you know, they sort of talk about replacing delivery vans. And frankly, I have not seen a single, you know, Amazon delivery van on Warren Street, apart from maybe a couple of weeks at the beginning of the pandemic. Certainly, you know, and as some of my other members of the community and the residents of the buildings have mentioned, you know, they do have, you know, the commercial loading dock on Murray Street that can serve as both incoming deliveries as well as a safe space for the delivery bikes or vans, you know, as, you know, Whole Foods would need. You know, the other, and so it's still unclear to me and sounds like it may be unclear to others as to why that space cannot be utilized and why additional space needs to be built out on Warren Street. Another concern that I wanted to underscore again is something that was just mentioned with respect to the fact that it is a single lane street with buses, with a bike lane, you know, with commercial loading and uploading, you know, that's used by trucks during the day. You know, even on a good day, you frankly see a situation where a mail truck cannot park and has to double park to deliver mail. You know, by taking again additional space out, it will just make it even much more, even, you know, more hazardous for all of us. So, you know, again, I mean, I think that with respect to the community being able to have a place to park their bikes, you know, that there's plenty of that on Greenwich. I think the Whole Foods, you know, has the space on Murray Street that they can, you know, perhaps alter a bit and then use it for both the trucks, vans, as well as the cargo bikes, while, you know, keeping the Warren Street, which has, you know, predominantly it's the school 234. It's the dog park, it's the annex to the school, it's the community center, and it's the residential buildings. It's largely, you know, a residential street and also a pedestrian thoroughway. So there's a way to, I think, accomplish all goals, including continuing to lower emission without building this bike corral on Warren Street. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Adam, I called on you earlier and you were away from your desk, but I can call on you again. Unfortunately, you're going back down the list. So Stephanie, Cliven, Heron, and then Mary Gill. Again, if it's been said, you definitely don't need to repeat it other than your name, where you are, and I agree. We have heard that Warren is very narrow. The restoration of of all the buses, the M20, the 22, and the connection on Warren. We've heard about the concerns of the crossroads as a direct access to the ball fields. And Stephanie, you're unmuted.
Hi, this is Josh Cliven. I'll make you happy. We live at 101 Warren. Parents of 2 children. We agree pretty much with everything that's been said. So we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Josh. Okay. Kiran Doshi. Sorry about that.
Thank
Kiran,
you.
you're unmuted.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I agree with everything that's been said by other people who came before me. I'm a resident of 101 Warren with kids and am concerned about the safety. But I'd like to add one more important piece of statistic. There's been a 53% rise in injuries and accidents because of bikes just from 2019 to 2020. This is based on statistics by NYPD. And if the commissioner is not taking this into account, that this statistic, which is right in front of our face, and this street is higher in traffic, then this decision of doing this is ignoring data and the safety. So that's what I'd like to say, and especially when the comment is we'll do what we do anyways. So that's my only point I'd like to emphasize further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Mary Gale, you're unmuted.
Hi, thank you so much, Tammy, and thank you so much to the community board. So wonderful that we're able to speak here tonight. I fully agree with what everyone's saying, and then some. I just want to quickly add that Tribeca has always been known as a mainly residential area full of families for as long as it's been in existence, whether it started with the artist families or whatever. But and then you consider Warren Street, which is flanked by schools and community centers and children and huge residential buildings, whether it's in Battery Park or our building. I'm a parent at 99 Warren. There are probably more families and children and strollers and, just kids everywhere on our one block on Warren Street than there are in the entire city, I would think. And it's already too busy as it is with the traffic from Whole Foods and all the bikes already, the sidewalks and everything else, as everybody said. And then to add all the other bikes going in the opposite direction on the one-way Warren Street all day long, it's just an horrible accident waiting to happen. It is so scary to me. And I just do not understand at all why Whole Foods or Amazon would not consider their beautifully huge, very open spaces of the loading docks that they have, including the much wider and much emptier sidewalks that they have over there. And then, of course, the 4 lanes of streets. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Mary. Sandy, and then I'm going to Adam Weiss. And again, please, if it's something new, great. If not, please just repeat. We do need to do the business of taking a vote. And this is one of 2 things we have for DOT. So next is Sandy, and then I'm going to go to Adam Weiss and then Brian. Sandy, go for it.
Thank you. Hi, Tammy. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for convening this meeting and letting us be heard. I will make this brief. I agree wholeheartedly with all of the articulate comments made by the speakers before me. I have 2 small points to make. There was a traffic study that I believe the DOT said that they would do, and the very good comment was made that it would be a traffic study in the middle of a pandemic where traffic, both foot traffic and car traffic, will be very different in a non-pandemic situation. And related comment, related to that, is the fact that on Murray Street, the ability to maintain social distances for the people who will be using the cargo bikes, the loading and unloading, would be much more readily able to be maintained if we have loading and unloading right in front of all the residential areas on scarce public sidewalks. It'll make social distancing even more difficult to maintain for the families and children, the school children, the visitors of the community center, and the people that are trying to get to the ball fields, to increase both the foot traffic and the traffic of the workers for their safety as well. It makes more sense to move them to Murray Street.
Social distancing is your comment. I've got it.
Thank you, Tammy.
All right. Thank you. All right. Adam, you're next.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, I can.
Can you hear me? Okay, hi.
Yeah.
No, I just agree with everything everyone else said. Just one additional point. Well, just one question. The letter that was sent today, I mean, it's more of a dictate. I mean, is there any recourse, or will this start no matter what we say?
It's a good question. That's one that we are struggling with as well, is the inability of DOT to listen to and take as much public engagement as we would like. You know, we believe in a situation like this, it's ground up. We do support cargo bikes. We do think it's a good idea to get rid of the, vans, the white vans that they have that double park on Warren. Our last conversation with DOT was to ask them to find out why it couldn't be in Warren on Murray Street or even West, which seemed to be a little bit more expedient, but we haven't heard back from that. And what we did hear was the letter that you saw from the commissioner.
So it's going forward really no matter what is the bottom.
It's supposed to be a 6-month pilot, and public engagement should include feedback. So we can look at metrics that, for example, after December 31st, if there's loading or unloading of any kind from any vehicle, truck, or van on Warren Street, I encourage people to take photographs and send it to the community board and submit it to the DOT feedback, because that's completely against what they're promising. If they are blocking the sidewalks at all with the bikes, and the bikes are on the sidewalk, or packages are loading onto the sidewalks, then that is something that as well that denotes a failure of the system and community engagement. And many other things, obviously the cargo bikes riding the wrong way, riding on the sidewalk, things like that. So that's the best that I can. Go ahead, Adam.
So that brings me, I'm sorry. That brings me to my second point, which is, has there been any discussions with the NYPD regarding bike rules enforcement? I mean, it's not just the bikes riding on the sidewalk the wrong way, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, just in general, just crossing the West Side Highway and crossing the bike lane, along the West Side Highway is an experience in and of itself, because none of the bikes really, well, I shouldn't say none, but very few stop at the red lights. And there's zero enforcement. So,
So I'm going to tell you that, Adam, we have a meeting called Quality of Life. Pat Moore is on here. She's listening. She's our chair for that, as well as Mariama, who is our co-chair there. And NYPD enforcement of 1,000 different things is a conversation that they have routinely in that committee. And between that and transportation, if it's a dialogue of a particular intersection or in general enforcement, that's where we're going to take those. And I welcome you to come and speak at those meetings. I'm going to keep it very tight because we have so many other people who would like to say something about specifically targeted to cargo bikes. I apologize.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Peter Hammack. Peter, do you have a question?
Sorry, I agree with most of what's been said previously, so I guess you can say all, but I'm not sure I actually heard an answer to the question that was asked, which is, is there anything Community Board 1 can do at this point to stop the implementation or alter the implementation of this plan?
I would say Community Board 1 is advisory. We are making our opinions known. We are going to ask for help from our city council person as well as the borough president's office. And that is, we don't have the power to stop. We have the power to make a lot of noise and to ask our elected officials to help facilitate. It is a city agency.
Okay, and I had previously written in, I think to Lucian, about the actual implementation, which has not been discussed. But the execution of this corral will remove, I guess it's 5 now, not 6, parking spaces with physical barriers. And I know that there were some objections to using paint and signage, but there is nothing stopping on a pilot basis the implementation of this in a much smaller area using non-barrier methods that would allow for that space to be used for parking. Has that been raised to the Department of Transportation?
It was, and they said that they could not do that because they had to. We even asked if they could use temporary barriers like the kind they use for construction sites. Instead of doing anything majorly permanent. Therefore, if it worked, it could go permanent then. If it didn't, then it wouldn't. But we have not heard back on that. Actually, I think we did hear back and they said, no, they couldn't do that.
But they allow cargo bikes currently to use any commercial parking space. So, so I'm a little confused by the lack of allocation of
it is not
space.
safe. It is not safe for the cargo bikes to use the space without protection because the cargo bikers can be, I don't know how else to express that. The cargo bikes could be run over.
I don't hear it.
So
I also believe that the design of the corral prevents vehicles from using the space, thus keeping it free for a constant flow of cargo bikes to come in and out. Commercial loading zones are frequently used by all manners of vehicles that aren't commercial loading and unloading vehicles. So this, I think, also is I believe, their way of trying to prevent larger vehicles from using the area that aren't doing loading or unloading, like for example.
It's confusing because cargo bikes currently can use any commercial loading and unloading zone. And so the city has already accepted that risk. What we're doing is completely eliminating that risk for a pilot, which I'm not aware, perhaps there's statistics on it, of cargo bikes actually having been struck by cars by trucks that are parking in these commercial loading zones.
I don't know either, but it's a question we can ask DOT.
I think it would be helpful to understand why we're taking away this space in a permanent way as opposed to a temporary during working hours way.
We have asked all of these questions and not gotten an answer that meets the satisfaction of the board.
Okay. Well,
or clearly the community as we are hearing.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Tammy, from a quality of life perspective, can we suggest to these people now that they contact DOT rather than wait until after the pilot is underway? Since DOT claims to have spoken to them, but clearly hasn't. Okay. I should have known you were already going there.
Hell's bells, yeah. Because what DOT had said to us is that they did outreach and they did not get any significant feedback. And so my conversation is going to be that I think that everybody on here, going to ask if Lucian can provide a note to who to contact for DOT to make their position known. Obviously, Commissioner Pinkar in response to the letter would be fine. But I also, Cora is on the line from Councilmember Chin's office. So I am hoping, as she is listening, that she will be able to take the feedback that's come tonight and have Margaret's office have a discussion with DOT saying, you got the two big buildings, residential buildings, and we've got 75 people on the call today and many people unhappy. So yes. I'm going to ask if Lucian can drop into the text DOT email and Councilmember Chin email. Okay, so let's see. The list keeps going. So here's what I'm going to do. Please understand when I do this, I'm going to clear everybody's hands simply because many people have spoken and not taken their hands down, and it's an all or nothing. So I'm going to ask that if you still want to speak, and if you have something fresh and new that no one has said before, please put your hand back up. Okay. Peter, I've gotten you. Correct, Peter? Are you good? I'm going to take that as a yes. Dominic Totino.
Hi, this is Karen Chin, Dom's wife. So I wanted to understand, I guess, how can we be certain that this will just be a pilot program? Because from the last meeting that the DOT had with you, there have been many gross misrepresentations at their end. I believe you actually asked the DOT representative on the last meeting if they were waiting for approval before moving forward, and that representative said yes. That clearly is not the case. On the last meeting, they said that they had surveyed the residences and community on 101. The only two residential buildings on this block they did not reach out to. I also heard earlier that the director of the community center was not happy as well. And the previous meeting, he said the DOT representative had said that they spoke to the community center and that they were happy about the changes. So that was a gross misrepresentation as well. The fact that it's now November 23rd, Thanksgiving week, the letter comes out saying that they're moving forward anyway, and that if they can complete this by the end of November, again, I feel like, how do we know that this is indeed going to be a pilot and that they actually will take community feedback? Because it doesn't sound like they are, or that they will.
Agreed. That's all I can say on that. We're moving forward towards a resolution. So we're taking notes. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
And just for the record, I do agree with what previous speakers have said on behalf of 99 and 101 Warren.
I assumed you did. Thanks. All right. I've got, remember, I'm going to unmute Cora, and hopefully that will, welcome from Councilmember Chin's.
Yes.
Cora.
Wait.
Ooh. Cora, you need to have.
I did.
Better. Except you have a lot of feedback. Or if you can turn off, if you have two computers running or you are on a phone, please make sure you do one or the other, please.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Now it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I've been listening and I understand all the concerns. Jamie is also in touch with me, and I also have heard stuff from some of the residents, such as Adam and Sanjir. I also got her emails. I didn't have from everybody, so I'm trying to get from everyone. I just put in the Q&A, Member Chin's email, and also my there.
I posted it in the chat as well for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So again, Councilmember Chin's email and Cora's is in the chat. I highly suggest you email them, and I'm going to say put a CC to Lucian Reynolds, who is our district manager as well. I'll drop his email into the chat as well.
And Tammy also said earlier that Lucian's going to find out who at DOT that the residents should write to, right? So
Well,
we'll
at this point, I'm going to let Lucian unmute himself. I tend to think we are, I think that they should probably write directly to Commissioner Pinkar, who sent the letter.
Yeah, I think that works. I mean, Jennifer Leung, probably more directly. Anything would probably be bounced to her, so it might be easier to send it straight to her. But I'll confirm who the best person is to receive those emails.
Send it to the commissioner.
Yeah, I think send it to, I agree with you, Susan. It's Cora. Commissioner Pinkar, and you're welcome to copy all of us so we're all together sharing all the ideas and comments.
Betty, can you unmute? Is it Jennifer INNES? Jennifer Innes or Jennifer Leung?
Jennifer Santa Ines is the deputy borough commissioner. Jennifer Leung is essentially the
She's the liaison to our community board.
Okay. And for DOT. Okay. There you go. It's all in the chat. All righty. So I think with that, I want to try and go to a resolution because we are at a point of 8:13 and it's one of two DOT reference things, the other being city bike stations. So, and we have some committee reports and I would not like to be here past 8:55 tonight. So I'm going to ask if you have your hand up and you have already spoken like Jamie, if you can put your hand down, and then anybody else who has already spoken. And if you have not, I will recognize you. But again, if it's not new, just say your name and where your address is, and I agree. We're going to start with Patricia. Patricia? Gone. Okay, Sangeeta Gupta, you're unmuted.
Hi, my name is Gautam Gupta. I'm Sangeeta's husband. Everybody's spoken very eloquently, and I don't really need to add anything. I agree with pretty much everything. I just want to add a couple things. Firstly, I'm speaking more as a husband to a wife who uses a wheelchair, and I think there's an assisted community living right across the street from us who tend to use Warren Street a lot. So I would like to add their concerns as well, just from a traffic standpoint. Secondly, if this is a pilot program, I completely agree with Emily. How do they plan to evaluate this over the course of the next 6 months, given that there is a very good likelihood that most of the schools and commercial establishments might be closed for the foreseeable future? So just those are the only concerns that I would like to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you back on mute, Demetrius?
Hi, I just want to make a couple points. Some people mentioned that Whole Foods could use basically sidewalk space to basically do their cargo bike pilot. But I just want to reiterate that sidewalk space is basically, I would assume, and everybody should assume, it should be only for pedestrians. And especially now with social distancing, it's really hard to keep space from everyone on the sidewalk. Another point is I assume that a lot of residents use Whole Foods to shop online. So basically with an increase of people shopping online, Whole Foods as a business has to basically find solutions to accommodate all that increase of business. So I don't think this is such a terrible idea to allow a business to basically succeed in what it's trying to do. And basically third, Whole Foods is not really asking for a lot of space. They're just asking for like 20, 30 feet. So I don't really think
100 feet.
Oh, 100 feet. So I don't really
100
think
feet,
that's,
5 parking spots outside the space.
yeah, 100 feet. I don't think that's such a big of a demand. Considering how our streets look right now, I feel like the curb needs to be diversified for more uses. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dimitri Ganaris, you are unmuted.
Thank you, Tammy. So as a
You're
resident
welcome.
of Grief, I agree fully with what everyone said. From the Tribeca Alliance perspective and the local small businesses, going back to the small business committee, we don't get the same ability to use street space for loading, unloading as now Amazon is doing. A lot of our folks who are doing loading, unloading get tickets, $150 a piece. So it's completely unfair that local businesses that are struggling have to compete on the same level, but don't get the same equity from DOT. Thanks.
Thank you.
Amen.
Good point. Exactly. All right. Christina Chu. Christina. Gone. It says F. Cornelius.
Yes, good evening. My
Hi.
name's Francine Cornelius. I'm an educator at PS 234, and I totally agree with comments regarding the concerns about the space. And so the proposal to implement this space across from PS 234, which uses a socially distanced entrance facing that space, the dog run, which is also used by children and families, PS 234 Annex, which is also used by children and families, as well as the community center. And my point is, I do not want to bury another child. In our community, we have buried our children. And so many families on this call, I have taught your children. I've been in the community teaching for 25 years. I taught your children, or at least waved to them in the hallway. And so I know your families. I do not want our community to bury another child. And those of you who know and have lost a child and know someone who's lost a child, we do not need that in our community. So I'm against this proposal, and I think everyone should call, write, email to block this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am going to point out one thing, and we talk about this many times. One of the benefits of cargo bikes is that it gets rid of the double parked trucks, who should be over in the loading dock anyway, but nonetheless. Toman Guler.
Hi, thank you so much. I'll make it very simple. My name is Theo Mangular. I live in 101 Warren Street, and I agree with everything except the person who was rooting for the 100 feet is not a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Patricia, are you there? Patricia? Once, twice gone. Hank.
Thank you. I'll keep this brief. My name is Henry Smeal, and I'm a resident of 101 Warren Street. And I would like to join with everyone else who is opposed to this cargo bike storage space on Warren Street. I think it will make the block more dangerous, and I support the efforts to have it placed on Murray Street as a better alternative. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so Ewan Crane.
Yeah.
Ewan.
Hello.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, I'm a resident of Warren Street, 99 Warren Street, and I actually directly overlook the street. And from time to time during the day, the street is completely packed with buses and traffic. And I have a question with regards to these cargo bikes. We don't see any of these bikes at this current time. So where are they coming from? And what are they taking the place of? Because there are no vans on Warren Street that belong to Amazon.
They, you know, they do have white vans that they load and unload on Warren Street. They do. They are not branded or marked, but that's what they're using for deliveries, as well as their, so they do load and unload out on Warren Street currently. That is what they are looking to replace, are all the white delivery vans that they are currently using with cargo bikes.
Yeah, I would think there's a very small number now. Also, with regards to the point that was made earlier about there being, it's a delivery zone. Yes, totally agree with that. But there is a time limit on the delivery zone from 7 in the morning till 6 p.m. in the evening, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. I think everyone who has signed up has gotten at least one opportunity to speak. So I think we are done with all of that. Did I get Christina? I think I have Christina.
Yes, hi.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me? Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Yes, I can.
So just want to point out, Whole Foods happens to have 4 sidewalks they can choose, right? And West Side Highway off limits. Greenwich was actually rejected by the sponsor. Murray Street is widely available and a proper loading dock. They're choosing the narrowest and the most highly trafficked street. In addition, if they're talking about safety, it's the children, as everyone has mentioned. There's also the safety of the workers. When you load bikes, you don't just, magically hop the sidewalk and get on there. You push these carts with all these bags and you get in there. It's an endless amount of traffic that makes the situation extremely dangerous. And so the question I have is there a way, given evidence now of significant objection, that we can have them at least postpone the decision to begin the trial? They purport that no feedback was received in opposition. I don't think any of us agree with that or have seen evidence. So given the dispute, can we have a proper call where they can present their evidence that there has been no objection and members here can speak up as well? So it's a balanced conversation.
Our process, how this works from a community board perspective, they have come twice. They have come to our transportation committee in October and then to executive committee. And then we have the resolution again here based on feedback and everything that's come. So from our process, just so we understand, we're going to be doing a resolution tonight on this. Councilmember Chin's team is on, Cora is here. She's heard an enormous amount of feedback that she'll be sending them as well. So,
right. But doesn't it seem maybe the process did not work properly? However, they attempted to solicit, given a huge amount of opposition and their commentary that there wasn't. I mean, perhaps the mailing got lost, or burned, but I think, we should have an opportunity given the imbalance in the results. I totally respect your process. Just requesting, given the circumstances, if we could kindly and respectfully request a reevaluation of this process. And I think we all know once you go through a trial, once it's implemented, it's that much harder to reverse, than if you have sort of a proper discussion at the onset.
I would agree with that. All right. Thank you, Christina. I think I have everybody who's raised a hand to speak. So I think at this point, we should do a resolution. Lucian.
All right, I'm going to fire it up.
All right. So we have.
Can I ask a quick question? Did Whole Foods ever come before the community board themselves, or did they always rely on DOT to?
They relied on DOT. We asked them to come. We asked DOT to bring them along. There has been zero representation from them. So, not showing up says
I think we
to me the same.
I think we should make a strong comment in any resolution and insist that they engage us themselves.
And that DOT shouldn't have a trial until Amazon at least comes and engages. I agree with Paul. I mean, even though, we're pissing in the wind, pardon me, everyone.
Yeah. I don't disagree with any of those. I
just wanted to say real quick that that the fact that there is no representation from Whole Food or Amazon, and the DOT kind of made the decision and really didn't listen to any real feedback or real input from the community, and that what we've learned tonight from the community is how dangerous this is and all of the inconvenience it poses. And so I think that that actually that the selection of the site itself is actually part of the experiment, and that's simply the wrong site. and that the pilot shouldn't go forward because it's too dangerous, and that the idea of the corral is a good idea, but what we have determined tonight is that it's just the wrong place for it. So it should just be moved somewhere else. This should be called off per se, and that when they have their real proper pilot, that should just be in the right place, not in a place that's so dangerous or inconvenient. And that's my comment.
Gotcha. Okay. Pedestrian sidewalk. Okay, Lucian, I am typing, but if you can share screen, people can see while I'm typing it. Okay, so am I getting the sense from the executive committee that this is going to be a negative resolution?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
I don't speak for everybody, but I would think so.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I am in here. You can see where we are. So we've got a lot of the concerns in there. So therefore be it resolved, Manhattan Community Board 1 expects that New York City DOT do more to engage with local stakeholders and design the project with their concerns in mind.
Tammy?
Yep.
Sorry, on that very specific point, is there any value to referencing this meeting this evening and the fact that we had 30 plus people express concern?
It's up in the whereases. We're sticking all of there.
Got it. Okay. Sorry.
Yep. I can do that super quick to make sure you see that that's in there. Whereas on November 23rd, over 30 local residents representing. And again, notice I'm not the greatest typist. 99 Warren and 101 Warren Street attended the meeting.
And also, if we know Townley and team are opposed to this, I mean,
Townley has to say something. I mean, I heard that comment that, you know, the director from Manhattan Youth, but he's a board member, so he has not said anything to us, and he will be voting on it anyway. So that's kind of where we're going to go on that.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. You can tell my typing skills. I need to go back to take typing pal with my kids. Okay, CB1 urges DOT to postpone the pilot installation and address community concerns raised, including interference with local pedestrian, sidewalk, traffic, bicycle movement on the streets, alternate location, concerns, and preferences. Alternate location for vehicles, including vehicles and like cargo.
First of all, she's already saved Yacho and Yukine once.
Inability to social distance on the sidewalk on Warren Street.
Tammy, how about the reinstatement of bus service?
Yep. Reinstatement
I know it's further up, but I think it would be good if we did include here the failure to properly notify and then to engage the community, because that's been something that we've asked for since our first meeting. And in fact, why a couple of us, myself definitely included, if nobody else, didn't even feel comfortable voting on it because there was nobody from the public here when we had the first visit from them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, it's down below. CB1 urges DOT that all pilot projects must include a robust community engagement outreach standards and evaluation before installations, and include an evaluation engagement portion with the local. Okay. All right. Yeah, that can come out. I think I've got everything here. Okay. Will be lost to the bike corral. Yep. Okay. So that's kind of where we are. Everyone has seen our therefore be it resolved.
Warren,
There
you
are
going to put something in about inviting Whole Foods themselves to engage with the community?
Thank you. Yep.
I wanted
and we
to
actually
I wanted
we have to
pass-
actually add that request DOT return with the applicant. Thank you, Paul.
Then I don't know if it's appropriate to address it in this one or not, but the whole idea that it's being paid for with taxpayer money as opposed to Whole Foods. It's like they've asked them to get their vans off the street, stop double parking, and for doing that, they're going to be rewarded with this new system of parking that the public is paying for at the cost of their own parking spaces.
Hey, Tammy.
Yes.
To that really great point, and to Dimitri's point earlier, I'm personally kind of I'm not sure if this sounds vindictive, but I'm kind of offended that they haven't done some of the things we've asked them to do for small businesses, but they're willing to do this. So I wonder if there's something to be said in here about that.
I think there's a whereas that goes in here about small businesses not having the same opportunities.
Yeah.
I think, Mariamo, we want to be really careful and not talk about Whole Foods paying for it, because if any of our small businesses want the same, then you're going to say, okay, well then the small business has to pay for it too, because you can't have one or the other. So
Fair
I
enough.
think that's
Yes, I understand
a
that.
dangerous precedent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I respect that.
Tammy, could I just suggest that the idea of the bike corral is a good one, but that at a different site it could be successful, that what we're really doing here is overruling that site, and that we think that it's good to go forward with the bike corral experiment, but in a place that's more appropriate and safe for it.
It says alternate locations for Whole Foods Deal and the bike cargo station, including Murray Street and their own loading docks, including Murray, West Street, and or their own loading docks. Okay, it's on there. All right, so is everybody ready on this then? Can we take a vote?
Yeah, call the question.
Absolutely. I'm going to second it myself. So I'm going to run the same way as we're running everything else. It's going to be everyone, if you are in approval, that's the way we're going. If we need nays, you have to call your name, say your vote, abstentions and recusals. Okay, so, okay, call in the vote. So all in favor with a yes. Are there any no's?
Nell's a no.
Okay, so no.
Any others? Are there any abstentions?
Should.
Abstentions? Susan, are you abstaining? I hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, I'm all for it. Hook, line, and sinker.
Gotcha. All right. Are there any abstentions? Meltzer abstains. Any recusals? Motion passes. For everyone who is part of the public, what they need to understand is committee votes are ratified at the full board. So there is still one more step. It has to go to the full board, and that's where our votes are final. But in the meanwhile, I am quite sure that Cora will be bringing back the dialogue to the community, to, yeah. Okay. So let's move it on. Thank you very much for your engagement on that. We have the same conversation coming down the bike on City Bike Station. Betty did an amazing job with City Bike. DOT came and presented on the infill. So it was a robust engagement, and we all know what City Bike is. So we started adding. Betty, thank you for your research on this and information about what City Bike is and their expansion. They're in phase 3 of expansion from 2019 to 2024 that will add approximately 16,000 docks and 33 more square miles into these 3 areas, as well as throughout the existing. So one of the things that came up in the conversations that we had with transportation is we asked them for, as Anthony called it, the saturation rates of the areas in Community Board 1. We, as you know, from sitting here through small business, are somewhat struggling through what is going on and knowing that we don't have the people back. Downtown Alliance has been very clear on that. We don't have the people in Lower Manhattan that we have had for a long time. There are a lot of businesses that have not reopened. And so we are looking to understand the metrics that City Bike was using. They did send us some information, and they were citing 4 locations. 2 of them people came and had major issues with. So the new stations were Water Street at John on the West Road bed, Spruce Street at Gold on the East Road bed, Fulton Street and Pearl, which was going to be in one of the pops, and then Albany at Greenwich in the North Road bed. Okay, so a couple of things that came back is we asked DOT if they would be using any kind of robust public feedback and engagement for the community in terms of citing locations and what determinations were made on whether or not they were going to pause or not. They stated that they have a contract, and so they have contract fulfillment deadlines and numbers and quotas that they need to meet, which kind of seemed a little odd. So we asked to review local ridership data and technical criteria. We haven't gotten all of the information that we asked for. Let's see. Residents objected to it being sited in the parking lane in front of the restaurants, which would limit open space. We've heard that numerous times along a variety of locations. We heard feedback that we didn't want it on a sidewalk versus the parking lane due to limited pedestrian space in our neighborhoods. We're all well aware. And then there was a lot of pushback on locating it within the POPs itself versus, again, being in a parking lane where people were parking. Residents reported that city bikes were being ridden on the sidewalk, including to and from the docks, which is one of the other concerns about putting the dock in the POPs. And that sidewalk sightings implies that it's okay to ride on the sidewalk, a practice that endangers pedestrians and is illegal. Bike lanes are not always present, as we well know in Community Board 1, where the city docks are located, and there's no obvious guidance that bicycles are same rules as cars, which is a missed opportunity to show the cyclists that bikes belong on the road. And although the app contains biking rules, the material is not rigorous or tested. And there's no test about pedestrian and cyclist safety. So you just hop on and go, as they say. So we had supported in the meeting, in the dialogue, 2 of the non-controversial locations, which I believe, and Betty will have to correct me if I'm wrong on this, we 100% supported the ads to Water at John and Spruce and Gold.
Correct.
Betty, is that right? So those 2 need to go there. That those seemed really non-confrontational and great sightings. We did not support necessarily the other 2 sightings that they had, which were one in the POP, which is at, Fulton and Pearl, which was in the POP itself, and Albany at Greenwich, because Albany is a very narrow road, and so is Greenwich, and there's no open street grid there. Okay, so that's kind of where we are. So here we go again, where we support the 2 non-controversial locations. We're requesting that they do robust engagement with the online portal to allow people to provide the community, not people, allows the community to provide input and feedback on the needs and locations, and then share it, because we've had a lot of robust dialogue of people coming to complain because they just announced the location without asking feedback first. And I did that.
I can be alone in this, but I want to go on record objecting to Spruce and Gold. Spruce and Gold is a hospital on one side, and it is the exit to my building on the other. If there has to be something on Gold, I would recommend 100, in front of 100 Gold, which is city property. That is Department of Housing. They have a huge sidewalk there. Let them put it right there on their own property. But Spruce and Gold is a hospital. Spruce and Gold is a hospital.
Yeah, I think that's because they provide free bicycles to essential workers. I think that's why they're looking to do that there. So, but that's fine. It's a good point. It'll come up in discussion. So everyone sort of sees where we are on this, and that, we're looking for engagement at least 2 months before, so that, adequate time, so we don't have what we have at the cargo station. Pedestrians first, new docks on road beds. Thank you very much for that, Lucian. Avoid docks blocking sidewalks, street space. Okay, so that's kind of where we are on this one. Betty, please tell me, have I missed anything?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's see if I've got hands up on this. I see one hand in the public, and I know I have board members. Colin, Mariama, and then I'm going to Carrie Davidson next. Colin, go.
Sorry, I was up from last time.
Perfect, thank you. Mariama, you're good?
Yes, I'm lowering mine too, because that was my comment, that Southbridge Towers is private property. So if it's on that side, that's a problem. And if it's on the other side, that's a problem to me because it's a hospital. But if the hospital's okay with it, then of course I would have no opposition, no further opposition to it.
Thank you. All right, Lucian, can you unmute Carrie Davidson, please?
Hi, Tammy.
Hey, Tammy.
And Betty. Hi, and thanks you guys for all the work that you've done. I don't know how many people are on this call. I know that we had a lot of people who were concerned with the City Bike process over the last several months. So I hope it'll get reflected that that the community has been trying to make its voice heard. I just want to draw one distinction that isn't readily made in the summary you gave, Tammy. There's two different kinds of DOT proposals. One is for expansion in community board, and the other is for infill. Expansion is when they add new stations. Infill is where they add bikes to existing stations. So I can't see the resolution, but if we're only addressing the expansion, then I don't have anything to add to that. But if we're also passing anything that allows them to continue with infill, which was also part of our discussion, then I think, then there's 1,500 people who've signed the Hideaways petition, and anyway, so I don't want to go into all of that if it's not part
You
of
should, because
Okay.
you're talking about, yes, we will make sure that infill and
Okay, so-
expansion.
Right, so we need to distinguish between those two things.
Okay.
Right, so, and just so that people are clear, infill is in the DOT's little bit of data. They provided a few statistics to Betty. They did not provide what was asked for by people on the Transportation Committee in terms of density, ridership statistics, or any of those things. They also didn't they've done quite a bit of infill in various locations in, let's call it the historic district, Tribeca Historic District. And I'm really thinking of the bikes that they added on Lake Street, bikes anyway, I don't know how much detail you want here. So maybe I should read the resolution, and then if I have comments, maybe call me back in.
You can also read the resolution and send any of the board members friendly amendments for tomorrow.
Okay, so let me do
because
that.
Our final vote is tomorrow.
Right. Okay, so I will read that as you're discussing, and then let me just go on record for like the four main things that I think people should know. So the community preferences that came out of the public engagement, which really was only at the last transportation meeting when DOT finally sent representatives, were that we wanted to minimize the impact to restaurants. So infill and expansion should not go in front of restaurants. There have been occasions where Madeline at Drain Park Patisserie received a call from DOT that said, you're going to have to move your tables and chairs because we're putting bikes there. That is not public engagement, and that is not in line with community preferences of supporting small businesses and restaurants. So community preferences should include minimizing the impact to restaurants, preservation of historic space such as bluestone sidewalks, because there's been notice received by buildings that they're going to put docks on vaulted sidewalks. The third preference would be preventing riders from using sidewalks or riding against traffic. So not citing. Okay, I'm just making sure I have all the four that we talked about.
That's okay. Keep going.
Yep, and then the last one was to relocate the ones that have become problematic. When DOT said that they were first launching the program, they said these docks were easily movable. So we think that they should move the one from Duane Street to be in front of the old Best Market. There's a cutout there.
They're moving it to, they already announced at that meeting, they're moving that one that's in front, that was where Tokyo Bay went out of business, the Hideaway is, and Duane Park Patisserie, they're moving it to the side of the park itself, Duane Park.
That was not announced at the meeting, and if it had been, Friends of Duane Park, which I represent, would have a lot of people on this call. That was not announced at that meeting.
I thought they said that they were going to try and, because it was one of the locations that we had all suggested, was getting rid of the parked cars, the placards that were there.
Absolutely.
Lucian,
that was not part of that part of the agenda then. That was maybe after that part of the agenda adjourned. Friends of Duane Park is
that's my recollection.
DOT knows this. I've been on record with DOT since the program launched, that is a historic park. The Friends of Duane Park does not want bikes around the perimeter of the park. We walked the blocks and gave them 6 locations in 2012. We've walked the blocks and given them alternate locations to try and save the Hideaway. And I'm.
Can you do me a favor? Send me the timeline so we can include it in the resolution. So like you did a walkthrough in 2012, and we'll include that in here.
Okay, it would be part of your September minutes, your October minutes, and your November minutes. But
my only thinking on that goes kind of like this, because we talked about having robust engagement and listening to dialogue, and what you're telling me controverts the dialogue about outreach.
No. So, okay, so let me go through this again. DOT announced that they were putting a bike rack at the apex of Duane Park, the west side, in 2012 when they were doing the proposal. They did not.
That's what I remember.
The streets, right? So we found that out after the fact. I had to work with Suchi at the time and propose 6 other locations because they didn't know there was a fire hydrant there, and because everybody on the block said they didn't want bikes in the middle of Duane Street. We have Taste of Tribeca. We had a lot of more users back then than we do now, but Taste of Tribeca and Friends of Duane Park and lots of residents said they did not want it in the middle of the public square. It was a safety hazard because there's no way for pedestrians to get to a rack at that location, etc. So after the fact, I then worked with Suchi to come up with the location that it's currently in. That was 8 years ago. From 8 years ago until September of this year or August of this year, there was no public engagement whatsoever with residents around the Duane Street bike rack. The engagement happened once Hideaway and Duane Park Patisserie were told that the bike rack that is currently there was going to be expanded and Madeline would have to remove her outdoor seating. That was the first that we had heard about the infill project on Duane Street. So since that time, I've been at as many of these meetings that have been called to remind people that we don't want to put businesses, restaurants out of business. And you passed a resolution back in September, which DOT wasn't really participating in and hadn't asked for our input. They had just sent Madeline a letter. So that's not public engagement. That's move your stuff. Then we complained to the Transportation Committee. Last month was the first time that DOT came in and presented their infill and expansion plan. When they got there, the deck was the same one that they've used at other community boards. You can see it on their website now. It wasn't made available prior to their meeting. And that was November 6th or November 5th. So that was the first time that DOT came in with a plan that showed infill or expansion in Community Board 1. That discussion did not talk about infill locations at all. It focused on the 4 expansion locations. And at that meeting, November 5th, you and other people on the transportation committee asked the DOT, and Anthony made the point about density and saturation. We all tried to make DOT answer questions about the lack of data that justified their expansion and infill plans. They gave us information about expansion. They did not give us data about infill. So far, there's been no data that suggests that there's increased demand for bikes that's not being met by the current docks. There's no data that suggests that that we need that any demand for bikes in one location can't be met by rebalancing bikes that already exist. So we asked
In
them,
fact, Carrie,
Yeah.
if you remember, they said part of the expansion and infill was a contractual requirement that they have. It wasn't based on saturation data. That is one node of what they use, but they have a contractual obligation that they have to fulfill.
right, but that's for
For how many?
expansion into is phase 3. Phase 3 is the Bronx and the outer boroughs. That's not infill into phase 1 locations. That's
It
expansion.
doesn't make a
phase
difference.
3.
What they said they have is a requirement from a contractual obligation of how many expansions that how many docks and bikes and things like that they have to have. That's part and parcel to the conversation of we're asking for them to come to us and discuss with us about usage and need in the community versus what they need to fulfill.
Right, but there is no additional need for bike assets in Tribeca.
We don't know that. We don't know that to say that. That's not a point we can say until we look at what the data says.
Right,
And the
but
data
that's the data that you asked for that they didn't provide. So
correct.
I am not an analyst, but they have City Bike data on websites, and I've been trying to crunch these numbers. Our usage, if you take out City Bike, City Bank, and West Side Highway at Stuyvesant, our numbers are down considerably. So there's no additional demand for bikes down here. So it doesn't make sense that they're, except that they think that everybody's gone and no one's going to complain, but it doesn't matter. They're just going to do it anyway. That's what they said at the meeting. When we asked them whether or not that you had asked them or said that you were disappointed at the lack of public engagement, and they said they were going forward anyway, which is the same conversation as the last one, which is, why I'm so sorry to take up all this time at 9 o'clock at night, but it's the same problem. The DOT is rolling right over the neighborhood. They are sending letters to residents and businesses that say we're doing this, and you have to come and justify why we shouldn't. 16 Hudson had to retain a lawyer in order to have their voices heard. That's not public engagement. So anyway, I don't want to go on and on. I do want to read your thing. I have to minimize the screen to do that. I'm sorry. So I'll read that. But I do want to make sure that people understand that there has not been public engagement other than me coming and asking you and Betty, who've been super terrific and patient, but DOT has not been responsive. DOT has not engaged the public. You guys have engaged the public. The DOT has not been part of that.
Appreciate that. I'm going to have you go back on mute. Dimitri Ganaris, your hand is still up.
The only thing I can say is, Carrie Parker Davidson, God bless you. Thank you very much. You've said exactly what's been happening in this community, and the businesses are getting the short end of the stick on this, especially on Duane Street. And Tammy, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. So I think that gives a very broad understanding of the conversation that we've had for a couple months with, does any board member have anything they want to add or call a question?
I just want to clarify my statement before we call the question. I just want to make it clearer that 90 Gold Street was not asked about this. So if the plan is to put this in front of our building, the exit ramp to our building, which is the only place I can think of, if you're saying Spruce and Gold, that's where we are. We were not engaged on this.
And that is something that should go in the resolution. Because yeah, it's about that. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone ready to call a question?
I'll call the question.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Lucian, you ready to roll?
Ready.
He was typing. Okay. So I don't think we need to do this as a roll call either. I'm going to go the same way we did before. So if you are a no, an abstention, or a recusal, please state the name and the vote. I'm going to say here are yays. Any no's? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Okay, motion passes. Cora, you have been on, and I know you've been very quietly listening to this, but it goes into the tank of public engagement and DOT with all the others, please. All right, 9:03. Unless I hear to the otherwise, if anybody has anything that they need to tell me that's going to light the community board meeting on fire tomorrow, I say that we just run through community boards and call it a night. So motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Second.
Yes. Bye.
See you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. I'm going to get dinner.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
And thank you everybody for coming.